All right, good morning, everyone. So officially, welcome to the first Hispanic Farmers and Agricultural Professional Symposium. Thanks for coming today. All right, I'd like to go ahead and officially introduce myself. My name is Jessica Cassia, and I'll be part MC, part traffic throughout the day. So I'll be here to serve you throughout the day. As we approach Hispanic Heritage Month in just 2 days, I'm honored to be a part of an event that celebrates the contributions of Hispanic farmers and agricultural professionals across the Southeast and Puerto Rico. Our hope is that this event creates new partnerships and empowers a new generation of Hispanics who will embrace the challenges to lead and feed a new generation of Americans. So let's get started with our program today. We are lucky enough to be graced with the presence of the president of the NC Farm Bureau, Mr. Larry Bluton, this morning. He's our host today, and he wants to provide some official welcomes to his home. So thank you, Mr. Wooten.
Well, thank you very much, Jessica, and I won't take very long this morning. Buenos dias. I want to officially welcome all of you to the state headquarters of the North Carolina Farm Bureau. On behalf of our board of directors and over 577,000 Farm Bureau members across this great state, we're honored that you're here today. When I was approached about us hosting this event here, we jumped at the opportunity to host this Hispanic Farmers Agriculturalist meeting here at the state headquarters. All of you know, many of you know, I'm sure, that Farm Bureau is the largest farm organization in North Carolina. It's the largest farm organization in the United States. And so in North Carolina, we're very proud of the diversity of our state's agriculture. We're the third most diverse state in the United States in terms of agricultural diversity. But ladies and gentlemen, a part of that diversity is not just the diversity of crops. It's the diversity of agriculture, the diversity of geography, the diversity of locales, and certainly the diversity of farmers that we have in this state. And so we are honored that you're here. You have a great program today. I look forward to continuing to be a part of this program throughout the day. Enjoy the day. Certainly you're here in the boardroom of the state headquarters. Our board of directors meets here. We are not, obviously we don't have 120 members of our board of directors, but this is where our board of directors meet. So we're honored that you're here. Enjoy. You know where our facilities are, and I just look forward to being with you today. With that, I'd like to introduce another special guest that's here with us, a man whom I have worked with, we have worked with here at Farm Bureau, and whose agency does a tremendous amount of good for farmers and for our rural communities. And at this time, I would like to introduce Robert Hoffman. Robert Hoffman is the newly appointed director of the state director for USDA Rural Development. Robert is a good man. He's going to do a good job. And with that, I present to you Robert Hoffman. Robert.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Wooten. And this is an amazing place to have a meeting in. Before I started this job, I worked with the commissioner of ag here in North Carolina, and Larry and his group were kind enough to host many, many meetings in this room and the one behind us. So thank you again, Mr. Wooten. This is great. Robert Hoffman, State Director of USDA Rural Development. We're here to help rural communities and people in those communities. We have 4 missions where we work: single-family homes, multi-family homes, community facilities, so think firehouses, charter schools, rural hospitals, and then we also do work over in business and industry. So we're open for business. We have a process that we go through. We ask folks to go to our county office. And we're here to help these communities survive. We're my colleagues here at NRCS and FSA, they're working out there with the farmers and the conservationists. We're working with rural communities, the people who need homes, the people who need multifamily homes, the communities who need a wastewater treatment plant. We have the ability to go and partner with them to get those infrastructure needs met, because frankly, at least in our state, Mr. Wooten, some of our infrastructure in our rural communities, I mean small communities, 20,000 people less. I saw one the other day where the pipe had been laid down in 1898. It's time to fix that. If we're going to have a healthy community, we have to have healthy water. And as Mr. Wooten talked about diversity, we have all types of folks on our staff, and we embrace that. And we work with all types, all folks in all walks of life, all types of communities. And we're sensitive to the fact that, as our agriculture and rural communities are kind of, right now we're in a bit of a change as we're going through with the farm economy being down, with what's going on in the trade wars. Farm country's hurt. USDA Rural Development is here to help those communities. I'm going to be hanging around today until 10:45 or so. I have to make it to another meeting, but I'd love to visit with you. Even if you're not from North Carolina, I have a colleague, there's somebody just like me in every single state and in Puerto Rico. Actually, I was with him just the other day. We were down in Mississippi. Does anybody from Puerto Rico? Anybody know Josue? Okay, great guy. So with that, I thank you for letting me come up here and join you, Jessica. Thank you. And I'd like now to introduce one of my colleagues. He's our state conservationist here at Natural Resource Conservation Service, NRCS. I've worked with Mr. Beard for quite some time, and Tim's been a great partner, even while I was over at NC Department of Ag, and now here at USDA, I'm part of the family. But with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Tim Beard, our state conservationist here in North Carolina.
Thank you, Robert, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Man, I'm so excited about us being here this morning. We've been talking about this for some time now, and it's finally here, and I'm so excited about it. As state conservationists here in North Carolina, I just want to say welcome to the great state of North Carolina. I'm going to be brief because after me, when my boss will be coming up, and I don't want to take up much of his time. I mean, he's coming from Washington, and that's not the only reason I want to take up much of his time, but I know he needs time because he's the son of a preacher. He's going to need all the time he can have. But I also want to just say thank you to the farmers who have come out and will come out this weekend. Too often we don't say thank you all enough. And I certainly appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. One of the things we discussed in having this meeting is when is a good time to do this? And as we continue to discuss that, there's never a good time to do it. So again, thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for participating. I hope you get something out of this conference that can help you as you continue to provide food and fiber for the folks here in North Carolina. Next, I want to thank my good partner now, Nolo, and his team. Man, this is an awesome guy. He's just a great guy to work with. He's got a lot of knowledge. He's forward thinking, and he is really the person that's behind this symposium that we're having these next 2 days. And I certainly want to thank you for all that you have done and working with us as a partner and making this happen. Next, I want to thank the partners here in North Carolina. I know this is not uncommon for us to work together, but we came together and we put together a great program for these next 2 days. So can all the partners that help organize this, can you all please stand? And I want to give all of you all a hand. And then I have to recognize my NRCS folks. Will you all please stand? These are folks that get it done. I mean, they work hard. They don't complain. they just get it done. And look, he's right on time. Next. If I did not introduce my colleagues, there are 3 other state conservationists here, and I want to recognize them. So will you already standing, Carlos, but would the other 2 please stand? And so again, thank you all. Thank everybody for coming. Thank you all for participating. We're going to have an awesome time these next 2 days. Again, I am so excited about it. And with that, I'm going to introduce a person that I've been knowing for quite some time now. He's not only the best boss that you could ever have. It is getting close to performance. But no, seriously, he is a great boss. I've been here for 6 years, and he's been there for me since the day I got here. And, I knew it even before he became my supervisor, but he's a mentor for me, and I certainly appreciate him taking time to come down to North Carolina, to get outside of the Beltway and see some of the great things that we are doing here in North Carolina. So James, will you please come up?
Wow. Wow. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Thanks so much, Tim, for your leadership. And Robert, congratulations to you and just all the good things that are occurring. Jess, appreciate you in terms of helping me get through this. And someone asked me, do I get nervous? Carlos, I always get nervous. But I think this one would be, Ms. Nolo, when I think about the work that you and I and other teams are doing, I think to myself, that's how appropriate it is today, folks. How appropriate it is that we're right here in Farm Bureau as a partnership, not only working, do what we call conservation work, but to help build communities, to make agencies and communities stronger. I want to commend you, Dr. Nolo, and your mind in terms of leadership, for helping to make these kinds of activities possible. I know when I think about Juan, Hernandez, and Carlos, I think about them being my mentors, and I know I've counted on Carlos over the years. Folks, I want to reiterate to you what the chief mentioned. When we talked about coming here, he wanted to be here, and he had 2 events scheduled. He asked me, could I fill in? I said, well, Chief, I can't really fill in, but I'll go in and speak and make comments that you share with me. Folks, what the chief has talked about, when he sees the opportunity right here for Nolo and the team sit down and visit with him and work with his staff and talk about the potential out there. And when I have the opportunity, Tim, to talk about things that are taking place here in North Carolina. This morning, I got a chance to visit with, where's Jeremy Ralston? Got a chance to visit with Jeremy. And Jeremy told me, Nola told me very quickly is, he just said in the next few days, because I was getting ready to kind of change the write-up to Tim, but he said he's going to be, he had his career goals. And he didn't just have career goals, folks. He just have career goals in the local office. I think he recently moved to the state office. He talked about not just being chief, but the biggest thing he talked about was, Robert, was about making a difference and helping other teams be better. And I think that's why we're here. And you challenge us at NRCS, not just in terms of placement, but about the expertise, not only the expertise that we have here, Tim, but the expertise that we're going to have over the next 100, 200 years. In terms of taking the expertise and putting the expertise in places where we need expertise, where we need individuals who can be sure that everybody has access to USDA programs. I don't know about you. I don't know about the work and all the places you see, But when I came in to Raleigh on last night, my flight came over. You know, I don't like flying too well. I mean, I don't do it that well. And we came over in the airport, I think about 12:30 this morning, and the pilot said, well, he said, I think we got a little problem. We coming in too high. I knew I needed to be here. He said, we're gonna go around and try it one more time. And we got it right, but the point I'm getting at is the last 3 flights I had a little difficulty getting on the ground. And the point I'm making is, it's all about preparation. Some things we can control, and some things we cannot control. But the things you're doing here, you're controlling the future. As the chief talked about is, the next few years, the agency continue to grow. And also in terms of Juan and Astrid, keep challenging me. You know Juan. I always use Juan as an example because he never accepts no. He always says, if that doesn't work, let's try something different. And he always makes things better than they are. Folks, we have an opportunity today. And I'm glad I'm here because I want to jot this day down, that when I'm long gone and retired, that I can look back at Jessica and say that I was here on that particular day when we met there at Farm Bureau, when we had some ideas and we could look down the road and have an opportunity to see what the future would be like. And we were a part of that transformation, not a transformation that changed 5 years, not a transformation that changed 10 years, but a transformation that changed a community, can change USDA, and change the access of resources that were available across the country. Folks, I'm just gonna make remarks. I'm about done, but let me leave you with this. There's a poem, I like poetry a little bit, and I'm not very good at it. But I sent somebody this morning somebody made a decision, I sent them a little part of a poetry. And I'm not gonna read it to them, leave you with this thought. You know, I love Robert Frost. I love him dearly in terms of, I don't know him, but I just read a lot about him. I read about his poem called The Road Not Taken. And that poem talks a little bit about 2 roads diverged in a wood. And sorry I could not travel both, and be one travel. Long I stood. And at the end it goes on to say that ages and ages hence, I should be telling to the side. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood. I took the road less traveled by. And that is what we have done today. And ages hence, we will be telling this with the side and the benefits that we were gone, Jessica, from this day forward. I thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Let's give them a big round of applause once again. Speaking of roads traveled, Mr. Tillman got us on the right path this morning, didn't he? Speaking of transformation, Nolo Martinez, this is sort of a reverse roast for him because I'm sure that he'll get a lot of praise throughout the day for the transformation that he's been responsible for in North Carolina over the years. And everyone mentioned it in one way or another. He's impacted my life in many ways. I've known him since I was a college student at Peace College here in Raleigh. And today, he will transform each one of your lives. And then you all will go on to make changes in others' lives later on. That's the hope, anyway. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mr. Nolo Martinez and Ms. Maya McElrath to the stage. They are, once again, the masterminds of today's event. And they're going to share some important information with you regarding the enormous influence that Latinos have had in agriculture They're also going to highlight the need for more Latino farmers as leaders and decision makers in this industry. Welcome.
Good morning. So my name is Heriberto Noel Martinez y Maravilla. I really don't know who Nolo is. I think that I feel pretty comfortable with saying that a lot of what happens behind the scene, even if they say Nolo many times, that has nothing to do with me. But, I came to North Carolina December of 1985. And at the time, I came because of farm workers and the interest that I had in getting a degree at North Carolina State University. And at the time also when I came, the airport that you landed if you came from somewhere to RGU did not go too far. We actually didn't even have flights to Europe. And when I look at what has taken place, my son was a year old, now he's 33. Many things have happened. And I think I can speak to the fact that what we're celebrating is agriculture. Agriculture really is the key of what has brought the Hispanic flair, feel, interest, and generations to this great state. And I want to talk about the fact that we are talking about the impact, the contribution of the Hispanics, but the presentation that we have using data and numbers have a lot to do about investment. I see faces of folks that have been here for a long time, and what you have done is investing for you and your family. So agriculture happens to be the common denominator. In addition to that, natural resources and conservation. So as we present to you the numbers, the data, the information that we have, we'd like for you to think about how we are going to invest for the next 30 years, how we're going to invest for the next generation of folks, whether it is Hispanic, folks that are African-American descent. It is important to remind ourselves that we're influential on the life of many folks, independent of color, independent of ethnicity. So we Hispanics come today to celebrate agriculture as a common denominator for our culture, for who we want to be as a nation and as a country. So thank you for coming. The way we divided our presentation, and we're going to try to go as fast as we can, and I can guarantee you that this information not only will be used in many other opportunities that we will have. We're trying to actually give you the most updated information we have based on the Ag Census and other sources. So you'll be looking at what we know at the very last minute. Some of the information that we'll share about Puerto Rico is not as current. One of which is the Ag Census was delayed because of something called Maria. But some of that information we will be able to update for the island and give you that information about farm accounts and all of those. And again, think about investing. And when you think about investing, it's important to talk about population growth. It's important to talk about purchasing power. It's important to talk about the presence in agriculture and breaking stereotypes. When you talk about agriculture, you're not talking about just labor. You're talking about entrepreneurs that need managerial capacity. You're talking about capital, and you're talking about land. So in all of those four areas that I mentioned, beyond agriculture, beyond labor, we have a presence, Hispanics, and it's strong. I'll let Maya continue with this information in terms of the numbers, but I just need to also talk about one important thing. One of my dear friends is here in this session, and I met him. When I met him, he was a farm worker, and he is today a leader helping farmers and farm workers that have disability, but yet continue to farm. And he's been doing that work for quite some time. He's from the Dominican Republic, and he has dedicated time and miles traveling North Carolina to support other farmers. And that's the kind of theme that we have throughout the day. Agriculture has so many careers and so many opportunities that I think the future in agriculture continues to be as good as it was when I started this about 40 years ago. And I'm only 22. I'm going to have Maya speak about population, then we're going to move into the economy, and then we're going to move into farms, and then we're going to move into some of the approaches that we have taken in terms of outreach, this effort, and working closely with NRCS throughout the Southeast region.
Good morning.
Morning.
So Jessica was right about the mastermind, but the mastermind behind the project is true. It's not Maya, no, it is Nolo. When I think about, and I'm going to slow down and think about the projects, the grants that we write, the ideas, they come from Nolo. What we need is data always to be able to say where we can implement them. And then we have, folks like Mr. Tillman, when we go meet with him, he says, okay, well, tell me how many, tell me what. So it's important to hold on to the data, to be able to plan for it, to do the evaluations, and this is how we continue. Before we even start talking about farmers, just in general, currently the Hispanic Latino population is about 18% in the United States. By 2060, it's projected to be 28% of the total population, 111 million Latinos in the United States, 28%, and that's significant. The slides are, okay, the streaming, I just got a little note there, it's not available. We can't do the streaming of the slides and presentations. All of this is available on the site. When you go back in and you see where you kind of got some information or you registered, you will be able to see all of the presentations that you see today, including some of the ones that you may not be able to attend another session. So it is available for you. In general, there are currently 60 million Hispanic Latinos in the United States. And in our Southeast region, so we'll sometimes talk about the larger region, and mostly our focus has been the Southeast and Puerto Rico. There are 10 million Hispanic Latinos in the Southeast region, our 11 states region, about 17% of the total. If you look, not surprising, 1 in 4 Floridians are Latino, and that's growing, and that's going faster. In North Carolina, we have reached 1 in 10. Significant. Aside from just talking about Hispanic Latinos, I want to talk a little bit about the change. So if you see on the left-hand side, this is a little graphic that kind of illustrates the total population change over 8 years. Where we are in North Carolina, we are the second fastest growing out of the 11 states constantly. Florida is ahead of us, but we're second and Georgia comes third. But in general, if we look at the region overall, between 2010 and 2018, 30% of the population change and growth was in these 11 states. 70% was in the balance of the United States. You look at net migration, more than half of the folks who have moved into either states, domestic migration or international migration, moved into our 11 state region, more than half. International migration is a quarter. In general, what that looks like on this side, 18 million people moved to the United States between 2000, or the population increased 18 million people between 2010 and 2018, of which 6 million were here in the 11 state region. Interesting that domestic migration all the way to the right, you see that we had an increase of 2 million folks come in from another state, and that they all came from that balance. Domestic migration is highest for Florida, 1.2 million, followed by North Carolina, about 400 million, and then Georgia. A lot of folks leaving New York, minus 1.2 million. That's domestic out-migration. They still have a net growth, the population is still growing, we still have international in-migration, but a lot of folks leaving from New York into other areas, followed by Illinois and California, with the top 3 out-migration. This is a sample of what it actually looks like. So if I focus on North Carolina, The population growth, 60% of the population growth, 66 was because of migration. 33% was natural increase, meaning there were more higher births and deaths, but that's only a third of the population change. People are moving here. People are constantly moving here. In Florida, it's 89.5% of the population growth are people moving to the state of Florida. And this, I'll just leave up there for 1 second while I take a sip of water. This illustrates the population change in Hispanic Latino and non-Hispanic Latino. You see the Hispanic Latino population change is at minimum 17% in Alabama and goes all the way up to 32% over that 8-year period in Florida. The non-Hispanic population grew, but not quite significantly. In Mississippi, it looks like 0, but it was actually 0.002% of a population increase was non-Hispanic Latino. In that 8-year time frame, there's only 1,000 additional Mississippians, non-Hispanic Mississippians, but 18,000 Hispanic Latino Mississippians in the area. Shift gears for a second, and I wish folks could see this certainly, but the population pyramids. So population pyramids are a wonderful tool, certainly for folks who like data to study and to analyze and to look at. And what this gives you, what a population pyramid illustrates, is the population on the left-hand side are your males and the right-hand side are females, broken down by age categories, by 5-year increments. It kind of gives you a picture of what the population looks like. Population pyramids are created for cities, they're created for states, all kinds of regions, and you suddenly get a chance to see, and people use this for planning, right? If you look at your city and you have a very high older population, you have to consider what you're going to do with your resources. You have to consider how you're going to support retirements. The age category from 15 to 64, that's your working group. That's the essentially working group. The ones below 14 and above 65 are kind of your dependent populations. So statisticians also use dependency ratios to see, well, do we have a really high group of folks, young folks and older folks that we have to support in a working age category? The higher that proportion is, the higher that ratio, the more stress it puts on the communities, right? So some communities have a very large base and very young populations, and you'll see some change. In Japan, you know, they're certainly becoming heavier at the top. This is the United States. You'll see the baby boomers. You'll see that pocket there where you have 50 to about 69, 64. You see the baby boomers, right? So you see that population increase suddenly. So sometimes you'll see, you can look at population pyramids and see a little gap and realize there might have been a war. Females typically live longer than males. So if you look at the 85 plus, there's significantly more females in the United States than there are males at that age. This is overall, and this is your Hispanic Latino population pyramid. So as the population decreases, we do a lot of these studies and we see white populations decrease, Black populations decrease, biracial populations increasing, but the Hispanic Latino is always increasing. So this is a more even pyramid showing this continued growth. And you look at the folks in the middle, the ability to support and to work and take care of the dependent populations above is much stronger than it is when we look just at the overall. If we slice this out by different races and ethnicities, you'll see even changes, even some more changes. Because we're North Carolina, I want to look at that one. I could talk about this endlessly, but I'm not going to, but I love looking at these, wondering what these little gaps are on the side. And this is your Hispanic Latino population in North Carolina. And one more for context, we'll do Florida. All races and ethnicities, you see it's a little older. Hispanic Latino, it's not quite such a perfect pyramid. The Hispanic population is much more established in Florida, so certainly that has tapered off as well. But then we look at the white, non-Hispanic population. That's a visual. You think about retirements in Florida. So this is a wonderful way to kind of study the population. And there's certainly, yeah.
So I think that we touch on the issue of investment, and I want to take you back, not necessarily in terms of a visual, but before we go to the island of Puerto Rico, which is part of this southeast region when you think about USDA and the work that we're doing. So think about the discussion that you hear regarding the new communities and the immigrants, especially, and you look at those pyramids, and you look at the base, and you look at the folks that are now in the room that have grandparents and have parents that are going to need care, and that working age group, and how critical it is to have a very healthy, growing community that could actually take care of the future. Or think about agriculture, and think about the potential that you have in places like Southeast North Carolina and areas where the immigrants are growing and can actually take over and support those that are going to need the help. So when you look at Florida and you look at something that is not a pyramid, it looks like those old Coke bottles, big ones at the top, the base is critical. So without the immigration, without that new blood youth investing in these industries that are basic to the well-being of the community. So that's what we were talking about, investment. So when you look at Puerto Rico, then you're looking at some of the situations that will also challenge the island in terms of the out-migration of Puerto Ricans out of the island, especially many of which are very talented individuals. I mean, we continue to hire folks in the US, North Carolina, that are, master's degree, doctoral, that are in industries that eventually we will need to have them, that workforce in the island. So the reverse would be true. We would need to have folks come back to support that development. In North Carolina, for those that are living here, the East Coast of the state, when you are basically making urban areas full of opportunity and jobs, and you move from the east or the mountains into those urban areas and ignore the rural areas, economic development is going to be based on bringing folks back, bringing people that can actually be the engine and the new blood of these communities. So Farm Bureau understands that. For example, we have had conversations with folks in the agency regarding the future of farmers and what culture do they represent. So for them to open to the idea of understanding that agriculture changes and continues to be vital with new communities coming in is great to see that we can actually add members and that we can add people in the leadership to maintain and sustain what is important about agriculture. So there's not an accident to talk about these population pyramids, because that's the key. I was telling the group the other day that if you tell me your age, I can close my eyes and in 20 years I can tell you how old you're going to be. So it's the perfect science. It's the perfect science. So it's for decision makers from the president to local officials at lower levels. Ignoring these pyramids is ignoring the most basic fact. If we don't work on our base, on our youth, on our children, we're not going to have people to replace the cooperative extension leadership, the folks that need to understand that this is where we need to make the biggest investment.
I'll add one thing in regards. There was a recent article in Forbes that talks about, if you look at this population, same with me, the population kind of slimming. There's some ways to resolve this. One of them is immigration. Another one is to encourage women to actually be able to have babies, subsidized childcare. One of our other projects, we do a lot of early child education programs. There's no universal pre-K, so the ability to have children is tough. So people decide to have fewer. And then also supporting seniors and being healthier, having stronger Medicaid or Medicare options. So they're less taxing onto the systems that are available, right? So there are ways certainly to support the population increase. But immigration was certainly first. So in terms of Puerto Rico's population change, the graphic says it. There's really nothing else that needs to be said. I mean, we can look at the numbers, but it actually shows a significant decline. And then most recently, if you look at the decline from one year to another, the most rapid one was obviously from 2017 to 18.
Okay. So let's move into the other part of this equation, which is the size of the contribution. And I'm actually quite happy to have Carlos Suarez here because he represents the state of California. And obviously we looked at what happens in California or what happens in Texas in terms of the generations of Hispanics that had settled. And you look at where we were 20, 25 years in North Carolina. And at that time when I was working for the governor and we were doing the Hispanic council and bringing stuff, I thought North Carolina, specifically Raleigh, was going to become the next LA. And I'm still not sure that will not happen. We're getting a lot of competition from Georgia. In fact, at the time when I was doing that work, and it was in the 90s, Raleigh had the fastest growing Hispanic community compared to any other city. And today, Georgia is really giving us a lot of competition, specifically because second to the Chinese Americans, we're the most metro ethnic group in America. So we tend to go into rural, urban areas. But different from the Chinese Americans, we're really strong in agriculture. So in North Carolina, the booming of the Hispanic community was meat processing plants. When you think about Silent City, anybody from Chatham County or anybody from those areas that you have meat processing plants, those were the areas that attracted a lot of these communities. And then generations, and we have, for example, later today, generations of Hispanics that are born here in the state that are about to graduate from college. And so those individuals are taking positions in different professions in agriculture. So second, a few groups in the nation are as important to the Hispanic when it comes to the health of the economy. And why? Well, because 1 of every 3 workers in agriculture is Hispanic. 1 in every 4 workers in construction is Hispanic. So you take any industry that requires labor or requires activity, we do 3 things. We do 3 things that are undeniable. Independent of immigration, there are 3 things that we do better than many people. We fill jobs, we pay taxes, and we generate employment. So when you look at the community in general, we're going back to some of the things that lead us to this. Sorry about this one. I think, yeah, we're going back. I don't know if you can appreciate that from the back, but talking about California, in terms of the spending power, the purchasing power of Hispanics in that state is $184 billion. And it's interesting to see how Texas and California maintain that level of spending power in that community. But then we see the growth in Southeast states. In North Carolina, we are at $8.6 billion in purchasing power. And that's really strong for a state that 30, 25 years ago, we didn't actually get to about 200,000 folks living in the state. Today, we are close to about 1 million. So that's really significant. The other thing that I think is significant is our contribution to programs that support security, Social Security and Medicare. So we don't have that discussion, and many times that data is available and it exists, but it's not talked about. And when you look at the contribution of the Hispanic community in programs that are very much needed to support the elderly and the youth, the contributions are there. So in the case of our age, for example, we're the youngest ethnic group in the nation. And based on that, we will have plenty to contribute for years to come. And so we're getting to the point of talking about our contribution in agriculture, but I think we have to set the tone of what the economy is gaining from the presence of Hispanic consumers, as well as the Hispanics that are paying taxes and programs. But let's move to agriculture. I'm going to pass on some of these, and they're there, but in agriculture, for example, I mentioned that 1 of every 3 workers is in agriculture, which is a very strong industry in the economy. We're talking about 662,000 workers or people involved in the industry. One of the things that we wanted to do in this conference is not just talk about the impact of the workers, but the impact of the professionals, many of which you're going to get to listen to. And the impact of some of the younger Hispanics that are actually going into agriculture. And you'll see in the panel following us of young farmers there that are actually 22, 23, and they're actually entrepreneurs already. We're going to go into the agriculture just to give you a little bit of a flavor for the size. This one will show you a little bit of the workforce, but I want to go into the farmers so you can move it along. This is one of those things that many folks don't know. One of the very first things that I think people think about when you talk about agriculture and Hispanic, they think about farm workers. And there is nothing wrong about that, because we basically have in some states 96% of the folks harvesting and the people in the fields are Hispanics. But this is also significant. About 15,000 farmers and operators in the Southeast happen to be Hispanic. And in North Carolina alone, 769. If you take Florida, that is one with the highest. If you take Miami-Dade, which is at the very south, and sometimes we think about Miami as a place to have some fun and go to the beach. There are close to 2,000 farmers in that county alone, and many of them in that homestead area. And so it's really powerful what's going on. Thank you, Arne. One of the things that we can show you is that in all the states in the Southeast, we have had a growth of Hispanic farmers and operators, except for Mississippi. This information of the 15,000 does not include the island of Puerto Rico. In the island of Puerto Rico, we are waiting for the new census to know the count. But in 2012, the number was 13,000. So if you add the ones that we gave you in those southeastern states and the island of Puerto Rico, you're talking close to 30,000 farmers that either own the land or are managing those fincas, the land.
So aside from knowing how many farmers there actually are, once we send our team, once we prepare for the outreach, for the work that we do, we want to have a kind of a general idea of how to task or change our strategies based on where we are, by state or by counties. This is an example, and there's hundreds of indicators that we use. We just have a few, a sample, but this is, for example, the age group, the average age of all operators, and the change across this 7-year span. And you see that both in Kentucky and in Louisiana, the average age has decreased by 9% and 6%. So they're getting younger, right? So we're building, so we focus on beginning farmers and young farmers. They're getting a little bit older in Florida as well as in Arkansas and Virginia.
And more women also. Female Hispanic women farmers is growing faster than males in some states.
This is an illustration of the number of farms that are out there, same with the numbers and the increase. Virginia, interestingly enough, there's an explosion of farms. I mean, it's a 600% increase. Obviously, we're talking about 700 overall, so people are operating additional farms in that location. Same thing with land and farms and acres.
Mentioned to USDA group that I was speaking the other day is that unfortunately, not all, because I think that we mentioned Juan and we mentioned a couple of other leaders that are going to be here talking. I think that those leaders understand what is to be data rich, information rich. I just find a lot of agencies from extension to NRCS to FSA, they're data rich, but they're information poor. And by that I mean that they have that information, but they don't test and verify. So if you're in a county where the census tells you you have 29 Hispanic farmers, which is in this county, no one in the USDA goes out to test and verify. So that's part of the work that we do. With the help of Juan, for example, we were looking at the island of Culebra, which is a smaller island in the island of Puerto Rico. We had no farmers there, and with his help, we were able to register 7 farmers. And so that's what I mean when we say you're data rich, but you're sometimes information poor. And that's what this work of strategy based on where you are. In the state of Florida, I can actually touch 51% of all the farmers that are Hispanic in only 4 counties. That's where they are. Why do I want to just be talking to the state like a wild person when you can actually go be present in those counties and do the recruiting and do all the conservation information and all the other programs? So that's what we mean when we talk about this, because many people in extension, and in this state, for example, we know Catawba County does a great job in outreach to the Hispanic farmers. They can tell you where they are, they can tell you what they're growing. And then there are other states that will say, no, I've never seen one. And the census is showing 69. So those are the kinds of things that this information does to be more precise.
The top industry for Hispanic Latino farmers is beef cattle ranching and farming. Also important to know which crops we should be focusing on in which areas. 30,000 operations of beef cattle and farming. And then the illustrations on the right are, again, our Southeast region, and Florida certainly at the top as well. 1,200 beef cattle ranching and farming operations in that location. The second one are other crop farming in general, 30,000. The other crops, so Florida is at the top as well. Florida, as we know, 7,000 Hispanic Latino farmers, so they're always going to kind of rise to the very top. Looking at this, and I know we have just a few minutes, we certainly want to look at, again, several factors, and this talks about the principal operators and whether they own the land, rent the land. We look at tenant farmers, and you see an increase here as well. Everything that's green at the bottom right, there's an increase of Hispanic Latino farms actually owning their land at this point. It dropped a little bit in Mississippi. It's important for them to own the land. That's how we can certainly support them and give them the resources needed.
So the last thing is a little bit about the future. One of the things that we have started with NRCS and other agencies, but specifically with the youth, is that we started a program to support internships, and is to recruit bilingual, qualified agronomists, engineers, biologists, to bring them into an experience that they can understand the work of USDA. And as of this year, we have a total of 29. 2 have been accepted in the Pathways program, which is a program that we're going to talk about this afternoon, that guarantees them a future in USDA, in agriculture, where they would like to be. And we have hired 2 of them to do outreach work for us on a full-time basis. We have over 300 farmers that are part of our database in 3-4 states. We plan to start in North Carolina next year, but we have work in Florida, we have work in Mississippi, We're gonna work in Louisiana. You'll actually meet some of the farmers that work with us, that have worked with us. Jose is here, and Jose is here. We seem to find a lot of Jose. And I think that what I find that is quite exciting is that the folks that you'll meet that are in agriculture, studying agriculture, that are going to be in professions, are not only committed to agriculture, that's really in their blood, and they see agriculture as their future. And it's wonderful to have bilingual people taking care of audiences that are needing information in their own language, and it's just really wonderful. The last thing I'll say is, and this is the most important thing, if you're an attorney, you have an opportunity in agriculture. If you are a designer, you have an opportunity in agriculture. If you're a publicist, agriculture has so many opportunities. And we need to start talking to youth and kids about it, specifically Hispanic kids that may actually see their parents struggle with farming from another point of view and not earning the type of living that they deserve. But if we push them out of agriculture, we're missing out on science, on engineering, architecture, design, and this is the beauty of this field that we're celebrating today. Yeah, we're celebrating Hispanic heritage, but we first celebrate La Madre Tierra, motherland. And so I'm glad that we're doing it the right way, natural resources, conservation, and the youth. So thank you for coming, and that's our story. We're sticking to it. These are the sponsors of the event, and I wanted to throw that in because I thank you guys for supporting us and giving us a chance to do this. And we're going to do this again next year, and the next year, and the next year, and we're going to make it even bigger. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that background, Maya and Lolo. Particularly inspiring, and that talk particularly resonated with me because after Hurricane Maria, as a Puerto Rican, I noticed the incredible need in Puerto Rico for an increase in interest in agriculture. I've been back to the island to take care of a few things with family since after the hurricane. And every time I visit the island, there's one common theme, and it's particularly amongst the aging population. They continue to say that there's no ag on the island anymore. And I come from a family of farmers on the west side of the island, coffee plantation owners a very long time ago. And I visited just last month, and my aunt took me on a tour around the land, which is now filled with houses. But one thing that she said was that right after the hurricane, everything was flattened out. So there were no trees, there was nothing growing. And she said within just a few months, those roots gave light to avocado trees and pineapples again, and passion fruit on those lands. And so they never had a need for anything. And to this day, they still pick fruit off of those trees. My family on the east side of the island had a different story. So the east side of the island is a little more urban, it's less rural, and they struggled for food and water for much longer. And so so this talk really reminds us that it's super important, especially amongst the younger population, to get them involved in these ag fields. And I'm really encouraged to meet so many young people from Puerto Rico that are here today, that are contributing, that will be our future leaders. So with that, one of the individuals that I had the pleasure of meeting yesterday, Rafael Vega, he is also from Puerto Rico. He will be the first moderator of your first panel today. Rafael?
All right. Good morning, everybody. I would like to ask for panelists to start working their way to the front, please. Well, that's occurring. We will be showing some pictures on the screen. And I will take advantage of this opportunity with graphics and now that I have your attention to be able to introduce you to some of the panelists that are going to be speaking with us today. Well, first, we got Jose Seda. Jose is a proud operator of a family farm in Puerto Rico. Oh, I need to click it.
No, you're good.
All right. Like I said, Jose is a proud operator of his family farm in Puerto Rico. He is, his main crop is coffee. And he is currently pursuing a degree in economics, right? As well, we got Ms. Elide Santos and Ruben Sanchez. They are an onco-means team, and their main crop is dragon fruit. They are currently located in Florida, and they're originally from Peru, right? Venezuela, arepas. So we are very happy to have Elide and Mr. Sanchez with us today. In addition to that, we got Mr. Jose Guerrero. Mr. Jose Guerrero is a producer entrepreneur. He's an outstanding individual that currently has a nursery, and he's located in Louisiana. And he as well has a lot of action with an ag supply business. So that's a different twist. Like I said, in addition to the farming that he does, he's also an outstanding entrepreneur. So please, to the producers that are here, please work your way to the front. And with that short introduction, please help me welcome our new producers. All right. Thank you. So I would like to brief you on how this is going to work. I got a set of questions. We got 4 questions. I'm going to allow 10 minutes for each question that is going to be shared for 4 panelists. Then after that, we're going to allow some questions from the public. I would like to remind you that if you would like to ask a question, number 1, raise your hand so I can manage the questions. And secondly, once it's your time to speak, ensure that you press on the microphone that's in front of you, and you can, once it's green, we can go through your question. All right? So with that, let's start. So the first question that I have for our panelists is, why did you get into farming? ¿Por qué ustedes entraron en la agricultura? ¿Por qué están en la agricultura? So let's start with our first Jose to my right. Vamos a comenzar con Jose.
Buenos días, mi nombre es José Antonio Seda. Bueno, estoy inducido a la agricultura porque mi abuelo fue el primero que compró la finca, ¿verdad? Para allá para los 70. Y luego mi papá pues, decidió seguir con la agricultura también, a pesar de que para allá para los 90 vino lo del huracán George. Y cuando a mí me tocó la decisión de elegir qué estudiar, pues estudié extensión agrícola en el colegio de Mayagüez. Y siempre me ha apasionado, siempre me ha gustado y algo es como un legado familiar para mí.
Thank you, Jose. All right, second Jose.
Yes, I'll be honest. I didn't get into the nursery business like flower business like many people did. The reason I got into it was after high school. I didn't have any plans for the future life. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I had an uncle. He has a pet nursery in central Louisiana. He offered me a job, and I started working right after high school. And then I started working in a nursery supply store shortly after. And after that, I started seeing the nursery business in the eyes of many Hispanic owners, and that really caught my attention. And since then, I started to have the nursery, and it's been great so far.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about how I got into agriculture. It's very touching for me because in an early age, my grandparents were coffee producers, and I grew up in the ag environment. I thought I was going to be talking about that one day, but it takes me back to so many memories of how my great grandparents and my grandparents and then my parents, we used to pray before planting for God to help us not only produce for us but also for the neighbors once we were having and sharing the blessing of God. And as I grew up, I wanted to go to university to study agriculture engineer, and then life took me to the States. And after 28 years, my uncle here asked me to join him into the dragon fruit business, and I was very happy and excited to come and work with him into the agriculture. And it's been for me, it's so pleasant. It's for me every day to go to work. I'm the happiest. And I tell everybody, I used to work for Evergreen Finishing Line, and I tell all my coworkers, I am the happiest woman in the world every time I go to work because I'm with the nature. I'm not in cage anymore. And I'm so excited. Yeah. My son, he's 11, and he sees me how happy I am going to work into the farm that they're teaching an art class, and one of the first choices was to go into the art. So it's like, you're gonna be a happy man. Yeah, so yes, I love agriculture. And that's how I got into the dragon fruit business now that we are with my uncle. So that's how I got.
Love your energy.
Buenos días, un placer también estar aquí en esta conferencia con bastante gusto. Lo mío es todo lo contrario, fue una situación casual. Yo no había pensado a una edad avanzada en agricultura, ya tenía una actividad bien firme en importaciones. Yo me dedicaba a servicios aduanales y unos amigos me convidaron a invertir en una empresa agrícola, que fue esta de la Pitaria. sin ninguna clase de conocimiento al respecto. Entonces, ingresé con un capital y estando en la empresa, una suma apreciable, resulta que vinieron los inconvenientes porque la gente no sabía de cómo atacar y cómo mantener las plantas. Y tocó que así como hay momentos agradables, hay que luchar también con situaciones difíciles para que la gente pues sepa que al ingresar a la agricultura no es todo como un paraíso o un cuento de hadas. Entonces hay que luchar contra inconvenientes. Vino el problema de la mosca africana, se paralizó la producción, empezaron a salirse los socios que tenían capital, yo había puesto más de lo que yo había ahorrado para un retiro y me vi en dificultades y no me quedó otro remedio que acudir a una persona preparada, familiar, que también se preocupara por el negocio y tuve la dicha de que tuve mi sobrina al lado, que tenía experiencias familiares y que tenía el deseo de incursionar en estas actividades. Bueno, entre los dos, al final sucedió que tuvimos que seguir hacia adelante en el negocio del cultivo de la fruta y afrontar las dificultades hasta cuando más o menos a través de 6 años que llevamos en esto se ha estabilizado y ahora la finca, la plantación va un poco más estable, produciendo una buena cosecha que permite un ingreso que ayuda a cubrir todas las necesidades de la compañía, cubre los gastos y ya vamos en una situación de estabilidad. Quizás hacia una vía de ver que se van a realizar los frutos de los esfuerzos y va a haber utilidad para haber compensado el trabajo y las dificultades que hasta ahora hemos tenido y lo que hemos aprendido. No queremos salirnos a esta altura, ya pasamos las malas y vamos hacia una vía de estabilidad y sí estamos contentos con la actividad agrícola que conocemos un poco más, pensamos seguir adquiriendo conocimientos y seguir adelante en lo que estamos realizando. Es un gusto estar aquí con ustedes.
Gracias, señor Sánchez, por ese trasfondo de cómo usted llegó a la agricultura. Te agradezco mucho. Well, now I got another question for the group. I am interested to know what kind of services have you taken advantage from through USDA, non-consulting, or other partners that have helped you on your operation. Me gustaría saber qué servicio a través del USDA o del non-consulting ustedes han tenido la oportunidad de tomar ventaja. Y me gustaría comenzar con usted nuevamente, señor.
Bueno, detrás de los agricultores hay una buena organización oficial, que es el Departamento de Agricultura, que funciona quizás en cada estado. Tiene gente graduada, preparada en asuntos agrícolas, que siempre están promoviendo conferencias y actividades a través de las cuales instruyen a los agricultores sobre la forma de enfrentar la agricultura, las plagas, cómo tratarlas y cómo combatirlas. Y también hay una unión entre algunos granjeros, gente que ha pasado por los mismos problemas y que los ha vencido y saben en qué forma y le transmiten a uno los aplica y son efectivos. O sea que bien por vía oficial o bien por vía extraoficial siempre hay la posibilidad de conseguir información en un momento de necesidad. Y por otra parte, la persona también procura instruirse a través de folletos, mensajes, conferencias y libros, y algo siempre queda una cultura, que es lo que uno le queda poco o mucho de lo que escucha y de lo que ha aprendido y lo aplica en su plantación con buenos resultados. Siempre, pues, el agricultor no está nunca desamparado. Siempre hay apoyo y siempre hay respaldo. Eso, pueden estar seguros que quien incurra en estas labores, bien de sus similares en la misma actividad o de los organismos oficiales, va a tener apoyo para seguir adelante.
Bueno, our experience with the USDAs and the NRCS has been great. With the USDA, we were having financial issues, and we requested for a loan, and we applied for a loan, and we got the loan for $150,000 that helped us with all the expenses, and they gave us 7 years to pay back. We already have paid 2 years. So, and then we, through them, we met Ricardo there, and then he introduced us to the NRCS, and he talked about equipped and conservation, how we can, with the conservation programs, we could apply and get irrigation systems. So we applied, and we applied for the water management. We applied for the pesticide management, and we are into the fertilizer management. And that is going to help us to not only become a better producer, but also take care of our land. Not using pesticides that are going to hurt us and us and the community, and also the land, because we have long ways waters, so everything that in Florida, because of the type of land we have, so we can really affect our environment. So it helps us to be conscious, because we as producers, we want to produce and we want to succeed, but then it helps us to take a step back and be more conscious about our land and about our water, how we can affect in the long run or short term, the land and the people. And we don't want to do that, So with these programs, you learn a lot on how to manage all those pesticides and fertilizers and water. And so we kind of meet in the middle, where we are producing, but at the same time we are helping the environment. And we applied for the irrigation system, and we got it. So we're gonna start working on the installation by April next year. So we're happy and looking forward for that because we need it. And that's gonna help us with the water management program. So it's good. Yes, no, I help us a lot. So we're happy. Thank you, Ricardo.
All right. So, sometime last year, I was approached by Adrian Parrott. He is a colleague of Nono, and he started talking to me about all the things that are out there, things that I had heard of but never knew how to get. Pretty much all the help that's already out there for beginning farmers. And one of the things that he did is he introduced me to Ms. Mejia. She is the Central Louisiana Local Foods Initiative. She's director, and she has really helped me
in seeing all of the ways that all of the farming experiences connect somehow. You know, it's not just the nursery business is one thing, the plant crop producing is one thing. It's somehow all connected, and it really helps to have a connection with people that are really out there to help. And overall, I've had a wonderful experience thanks to Nola and everybody else.
En Puerto Rico, la industria cafetalera, todos los terrenos donde se cultiva son escarpados, inclinados, y en ICS nos ha ayudado a nosotros en cómo plantar las plantas en esos terrenos, nos marca los contornos para evitar la erosión, porque es un problema de la industria cafetalera bien serio, nos ayuda a controlar la escorrentía de la lluvia. Y luego del huracán María en el 2017, que eso fue algo devastador, ellos nos dieron apoyo económico con la remoción de los escombros. Y UCA tiene un programa que se llama NAP. Ese programa para nosotros eso fue como que, de verdad, ellos nos ayudaron, nos pagaron las plantaciones nuevas de café que perdimos, y eso fue crucial para nosotros podernos levantar otra vez la industria de café, por lo menos la finca de nosotros, y he escuchado a otros agricultores en Puerto Rico que fue de gran ayuda. Yo, que estoy con Nova Consulting, tuve la oportunidad de ser elegido, ¿verdad?, para ser internado en Culebra, y eso fue para mí una experiencia gratificante y me ayudó mucho como persona y para crecer profesionalmente. Gracias a Nova Consulting.
All right, the next question. Leader, I would like to just switch it up a little bit. I will start with you this time, right? I am interested to know if you had any challenges through the process, and if you got any challenges, if there's any recommendations for us on how to do much better in regards of the services that we provide to you. And if you didn't have any challenges, I got a follow-up question.
Okay, challenges in the process of getting the application.
The services, the challenges in general. How provide us with some recommendations on how we can do better,
Okay.
or how we can enhance it
Okay.
if it's already super good.
Okay, so, well, for me, it's been smooth because over there, they're so nice and so helpful, you know. If I need, they going through the paperwork and I needed something, they just call me and I say, you need to bring it right away, and I go around and do it right away. So, and they tell you, walk you know, you get into this program, it gives you points, so, you know, and it's good for me because I'm gonna learn, and I'm eager to learn more. So yes, put me there, I'll follow, I'll do it, you know, so, it's been great experience for the people over there is so nice and helpful, you know. I don't think it was a challenge.
Okay.
Just time consuming because of the process. You know what I mean? That you
A lot of papers.
Yeah, a lot of paperwork to do, but they help you for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. What's that? Can I go with you?
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear it.
Okay, en Puerto Rico, por lo menos, en ACS y UCA, pues ellos no van a donde los agricultores a ofrecer las ayudas. Y los agricultores casi siempre se enteran por un vecino o otro agricultor que dicen, mira, están dando esto, vete y aplica. Pero luego que tú estás allí, ¿verdad? El servicio es de primera, ellos te orientan, te dan seguimiento, pero para conectar al agricultor, ¿vale? Eso es lo que está haciendo los consulting. Pues no, por lo menos nosotros nunca fue nadie a la finca de NCA ni UCA a ofrecernos servicios, siempre fue que nosotros lo buscamos.
Yeah, so last year I actually applied for a high-tone grant that is offered by the USDA. I never heard anything back from it. However, I do have recommendations for people who seek help from any agency, and that's to keep in contact with them, because at the end of the day, they are people just like us, and it's not all just, they don't just go down a list. It's really personal contact really does make a difference, and that's really with everything. So that's one of my main recommendations is to keep in contact, and don't be scared to ask again.
Right, Mr. Sanchez.
Bueno, sí, la actividad agrícola es una de las más dinámicas que existe. No es una actividad estable, como decir quizás dedicarse a un restaurante, una cafetería, que es pedir un café, un sándwich o un alimento. Eso cambia permanentemente con relación al tiempo, con relación a las plagas y con relación a las dificultades que enfrentan los agricultores. A veces hay los recursos, pero si no se entera el agricultor, como dice la compañera nuestra, de los servicios a los cuales pueden acudir de inmediato en frente de las dificultades que nos quedan y que se presentan. Por ejemplo, en la zona de Florida, de un momento para otro, de mayo a noviembre, no se sabe cuándo viene un viento inesperado o una lluvia fuerte o un mismo huracán. Destruye las plantaciones, tumba las plantas y quizás estos servicios oficiales pueden prestarle inmediata ayuda al agricultor mediante financiamiento, ayudar a levantar otra vez su cosecha, o en medio de una plaga también están informados de cuáles son los productos que pueden combatir esas plagas. Entonces yo sugeriría que permanentemente hubiese algún representante preparado de los organismos que de vez en cuando visitara las plantaciones, o que uno pudiera acudir para enterarse cuáles son las ayudas o las asesorías que pudieran prestarle a los agricultores.
All right. So now let's take some questions from the public. Please remember, if you got a question, to raise your hand first so I can manage the questions. And secondly, once you're ready to ask your question, make sure that the light in front of you is on green. Cynthia? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Bueno, primero que todo, muchas gracias a los panelistas por compartir su experiencia. Y mi pregunta es para José, creo que es, pero cualquiera de los otros tres participantes sí pueden responder. Pero me llamó la atención, José, lo que dijiste de cómo ustedes no sabían de la ayuda que había disponible. ¿No? Y ese es un reto que tenemos. Yo trabajo con la Universidad Estatal de Carolina del Norte y a veces se nos complica mucho cómo conectarnos con los trabajadores o con los productores. No, la pregunta es específicamente, ¿de qué manera creen ustedes que sería la mejor manera en que nosotros podemos comunicarnos con ustedes o que ustedes conozcan cuáles son los servicios que nosotros ofrecemos?
Bueno, podrían poner un personal, ¿verdad? Que vaya y busque a los agricultores donde están. Otro medio sería la radio. Los agricultores, por lo menos en Puerto Rico, los agricultores siempre están con la radio conectados, Facebook, pero yo pienso que lo más conveniente sería una persona que buscara a estos agricultores y le ofreciera el servicio, porque los agricultores son bien fieles a su trabajo y cuando ellos están en la finca, a ellos no les gusta salir, no les gusta interrumpir, hay que entenderlo, ¿verdad? Ellos siempre están contra el tiempo. Esa es mi sugerencia.
Anyone of the other ones would like to add other recommendations?
Bueno, yo creo que también podría ser muy efectivo que en los organismos correspondientes hubiese O igualmente, una persona que en cualquier momento que acuda, un agricultor, en solicitud de información sobre qué podría ser la forma de que él pudiese tener respaldo para el problema que confronte, se lo pudieran explicar ampliamente y pudiese acudir a eso, si es posible.
Entonces, como un database, o sea, del agricultor, de manera que... I'm sorry, I'm speaking Spanish.
Español inglés no importa.
I think of the USDA or CH, you have like a database of the farmers in the region. So if there is like something coming up, a program or situation, example, hurricane, rain, send like a message, you know, like if they have our phones and then they send, okay, there's a hurricane coming, if any damages, this is the programs that you should, the phones that you should contact, or this is the, is there any new program available? Okay, everybody who needs qualify for this program, this is the dates that need to be applied for, you know, so the farmers know, okay, from this time to this time, I need to, you know, make the time to go to the Department of Agriculture or NRCS to apply for this program. So, you know, keep on the toe. I think that would be a good idea if they have a database and then they text them or send them an information. Because usually most of us have a cell phone, you know. So either WhatsApp or, you know, just text message, it will be nice, you know, so because we don't have the computer, well, we have the phone also with the emails, you know, but database like a phone message, text message, you know, that we don't know what's going on with new programs in health and assistance.
Something that I think would really help with that, and which is very important, is that I think farmers should be not only connected to your local USDA contact representative, but also with each other. More than anything, have a group that you can talk to about this type of stuff, and you guys can always consult each other, and maybe one of you guys hears something that the other one doesn't, and it's just great to have other people to count on that are doing stuff that you're doing.
Me queda claro que todos ustedes han tenido contratos con NRCS en algún momento dado. Y me encantaría saber en el proceso desde que ustedes aplicaron a que terminaron con un contrato, ¿qué parte fue la más confusa, si alguna, en el proceso? O entendían todo lo que estaba pasando en todo el momento, desde el momento que aplicaron a que acabaron.
La parte más confusa para mí fue cuando apliqué, no sabía en qué momento es cuando me iba a tocar a mí la asistencia. No sabía si iba a ser mañana o sería más personas diferentes de mí, o no sabía cuál era mi prioridad en eso. Y creo que también es la razón por la que mucha gente se espera cuando no recibe asistencia inmediatamente, porque no sabe si aún no le toca su turno para ellos o están esperando que toque esa persona.
En nuestro caso, en el momento en el cual nos acercaron la ayuda económica, fue sencillo, porque había un cupo de recursos para otorgárselo a los agricultores. Y llegué en el preciso instante en que eso existía. Y le expresé a la persona indicada, bueno, que yo aspiraba también a una cantidad. Y es más, solicité menos de lo que estaban dispuestos a otorgar. Y me lo otorgaron en un plazo de 7 años a un interés muy bajo. y aún se está pagando, pero ya se pagaron las primeras cosas. Fue un proceso, en nuestro caso, fácil, rápido y sencillo.
Una pregunta relacionada a la empresa agrícola como tal. ¿Ustedes, antes de entrar o a través del tiempo en que han estado trabajando, han hecho un plan de negocio? Para, ya sea en la pitaya o ya sea en el café, y cómo han recibido ayuda, ya sea de extensión o cualquier otra agencia, para mejorar ese plan, si han seguido ayuda.
Por lo menos en la industria de café en Puerto Rico, pues hay unos beneficiados, son como unos centros de acopio que reciben el café. Podríamos decir que en Puerto Rico el café en uva, o ya sea que sea seco, el proceso que el agricultor lo realice, lo tiene mercado seguro. Al menos que sea que tú quieras montar tu coffee shop, ¿verdad? Pues ya ahí tendrías acceso a algo más delicado, tienes que hacer un plan de negocio y eso. Pero nosotros por lo menos no. Cultivamos plátanos también y naranja, pero hay unos centros agropecuarios, uno lo lleva allí y lo vende, que no hemos tenido problema con eso.
En cuanto al producto, nosotros, la pitaya, hay que estar muy atentos porque el problema consiste en que el productor no fija el precio final del producto. No es quien dice, quiero, aspiro o mi producto vale tanto. Uno tiene que ir donde los compradores, que generalmente son mayoristas, que conocen el mercado interno de las diferentes zonas de Estados Unidos donde lo van a llevar, y en la zona adquieren la fruta y le fijan un precio. Muchas veces, por supuesto, no estamos conformes con el precio que se le ha fijado a la fruta, y depende también, porque generalmente hay varios productores de la misma fruta y se da en la misma época. Entonces sale mucha fruta al mercado y el precio en el momento en que tenemos fruta baja. Pero el precio final lo fija el comprador, el que va a recibir la fruta. ¿Entiendes? Y más o menos es soportable, pero no es un precio justo, en realidad. En ese sentido, no tenemos el contacto con los distribuidores en cada zona, porque el distribuidor de la zona donde se cultiva el producto lo adquiere y se lo lleva a otro distribuidor en otro mercado dentro del propio Estados Unidos donde no existe la fruta. Por ejemplo, para mayor comprensión, el comprador de Miami adquiere la fruta de todos los productores y se la lleva a un distribuidor en Nueva York o en California. Y ese distribuidor en Nueva York o en California, con su correspondiente utilidad, por supuesto, porque está trabajando, se la vende a los mercados. Entonces el precio va creciendo hasta el último consumidor, que es el consumidor normal, el que consume la fruta. Pero el productor no fija el precio de su fruta. No sé cómo se puede superar esto. Pero si hubiese alguna forma en la cual los organismos oficiales pudiesen informarles a los productores cómo llegar hasta los compradores más cercanos al consumidor, indudablemente que el productor tendría un mayor ingreso y podría defenderse más para pagar su fertilizante, sus empleados y los gastos que normalmente tiene una actividad de producción de fruta.
Sí. Nosotros estamos confrontando en este momento, we as a producer, we are confronting right now a big issue with that because there is no fixed price. So we don't know what we're gonna get. We work very hard to get not only the best food, but a healthy. That's what we care about. That whoever eats our food is healthy, get the benefits of the food. That is very expensive. in trying to try to be into the organic process is very expensive. And when it comes to us to sell the fruit, we don't have an organization who can help us with the distributors. The distributors right now, we tell them the fruit, okay, the price is at the market is $2 per pound. And when they give us the check 20 days after or months after, they sold that, they give us, oh, we sold it at 90 cents. And it told us $2. And we're expecting that money to keep going and buy good fertilizers and going into organic pesticides. And we receive 90 cents, $1 per pound. But in New York here, they selling $6 a pound. You know? So it's a big issue because the money that we're counting on to receive a month later is not there. You know? So we really need an organization who can protect us with that. That if the market says it's $2, and then it's $2, no, a month later, 21 days later, oh, sorry, the market was saturated, and we could have sold it for 90 cents. And take it or leave it. I mean, this is what we got for you, and this is it. You know, and then we are like, what? What are we gonna do? We still have 20 employees to hire to pick up the food, and we didn't even get that money. You know, so it is very, very worrying and upsetting because we care about our employees too. You know, we want them to be happy because that's another issue that we're having. We have no people. We have no one to pick up the food. We have no workers. Right now, we are using the Haitian community to help us pick up the food. I mean, let's talk here. There is so many challenges that we as a producer are having. There are no people, and the people that we have to take care of them. And how do we do that? By paying a good salary, because if we don't, they leave. And we will need them the most, they are not there for us. So how they come back? If we pay them a good, rate for their labor, So we need that money. We need those $2 per pound because they are gonna help us take care of our employees. They are gonna help us to provide them, all they need, the day they take, because we want them to be hydrated. We need to buy them their food. We have to buy them everything they need. And if we don't have that money, they're not gonna come back. And what are we gonna do? You see, right now it's really, really hard. Yesterday we planned to pick fruit, and we were expecting 10 people, and only 3 showed up because they're busy, because it is hard work and all the stuff. And even though we increase, we receive money, we increase. We tell them, okay, we're gonna pay $10, we're gonna pay $12 or $15, but please come. We provide them the food, the water, the Gatorade, everything they need to be hydrated, and and we tell them, you need to in this time you need to drink your Gatorade, you need to replenish and all the stuff, but it is so hard. So yes, we need an organization to help us with the price of the product. We do. It is really hard to work with now income. And if you can help us with that, I mean, we feel right now with a distributor, we need to find a lawyer because it's like we gave him so much food and he just gave us like no money for it. And we feel like we need somebody to, back us up. Or, if people, and it's not only us that feel that way. A lot of people feel that way. But there's nothing they can do. They just receive what they get, and it's not fair. It's not fair, and that's why, like people, young people, they see the parents are struggling, you know, because yes, you work. Sometimes I get home 11 p.m. You know, I mean, I've got a happy camper, and that's how I'm trying to pass to my son. He wants to go into agriculture, but he sees the struggle that we're going through. And I tell him, you better work and study and make this better, this feel better, you know, for future generations. But we want our kids to stay in the ag industry, but we have to have all that support. Otherwise, they're gonna go all of them into computers and Google it, and you know, and we want food. We need food, don't we? It's nice, huh? So we need that backup from the legal perspective of getting paid fairly, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with some of the things you were saying. It definitely is a challenge that we as the producers cannot always get price-wise what we ask for. And sometimes it is, that is decided by the consumer, but it's also decided by the people that we're working with, or competition. And that's something that around my field of work has definitely started to become an issue. I would say in the past years that I've been doing this. People are always trying to sell stuff for cheaper and cheaper because they think that that's the only way that they're going to be able to sell the product, and that ends up hurting everybody. And I believe we're all guilty of it. That's something that we should definitely have a better plan of, because if that is not addressed, there might not be a benefit of being forward. So
we definitely recognize the struggle and the challenge. And I hope that with these types of meetings, activities, that we can foster those conversations and possibly allow and facilitate the integration of those conversations. All right, I got time for one more question. Please.
Ahí está. So, tengo una pregunta sobre si ustedes están pensando o si han experimentado con el ser un valor añadido del producto de que ustedes siembran. No, cualquiera. O sea, puede ser de la Italia o puede ser de Puerto Rico, nursery, yo sé que es posible, pero la pregunta sobre.
Sí, bueno, nosotros en Puerto Rico con el café, ¿verdad? Tenemos planeado montar un beneficiado para despulparlo, secarlo y poder vender el café seco a los mismos torrefactores para añadirle valor, porque pues, la diferencia de precio es bastante considerable y nosotros también tenemos un problema que la compañía estaba diciendo, que el precio pues, nunca es justo para el agricultor. Siempre el intermediario es el que se lleva la mayor parte y ninguno como... Por eso es importante que se meta a la agricultura le guste, porque todos esos obstáculos, todos esos problemas que te enfrentas, pues si te gusta lo que estás haciendo, lo ves como un reto y lo brincas y sigues hacia adelante, pero la generación futura, cuando ve todos esos problemas, pues a veces elige otra carrera porque hay que entenderlo también. O sea, pero nosotros por lo menos en el café estamos practicando eso, hacer un beneficiado y secarlo. No hemos mirado nada sobre coffee shop ni venderlo en harina como tal, pero estamos pensando eso.
Yes, we have thought about other ways to sell the food other than just the food itself, by doing the pulp or and selling it frozen, in like cut it into pieces and bag it up and sell it. But once again, we need money for that. We need a big investment. We need a building. We need
installations, we need all that to be able to do it. It's not just me going into my kitchen and cutting it. It's not that. I need personnel, I need equipment, I need all that. Of course, in the first day I went over there and I saw the food, especially we have two kind of food. We have number one, that is the one that has no stains, because what happened with dragon fruit, it gets stained with the rain. Okay? But inside the food, it is perfect, because this is the kind of food that gets damaged from the outside to the inside. You see? So when it rains, it stains the food, or sometimes the flour just, when it is flour, it just stick to the food, and people, consumers say, oh, it's damaged, but inside it's a perfect, okay? But on the, but the outside, it doesn't look beautiful, you know? So the number one is the perfect one, has no stains whatsoever. But what happened with the number two? I said, well, let's cut it, let's blend it, let's do something so we can sell it. But it comes the challenge of the money, you know, that we need the installation. We have to have a certified kitchen to do it. We needed purified water, that has to be chlorine for the sanitation. We already put all that installation with the water. We did bought a new filter and all the stuff. We start with something. We already have the water, which is very important. But we still need the installation, and it has to be a building, a very has to be sanitized building, where the workers have to wear the proper clothing to go into that, So, and we need to provide that to the employee, you know what I mean? All the outfit outside, and the nets on the hair, the gloves, and everything is money. So yes, we have thought about it, but we just need the money. And we have thought made installation places like that in Vietnam, and how they do it with the dragon fruit is out of this world, really nice. And we would love to have one of those here in the States. Definitely we do. But we need them to pay us more for the food so we can get there.
Good. So, anybody else? We got 5 more minutes.
Para complementar lo que dice mi sobrina y lo que he puesto, en realidad sí se necesita no solamente para las instalaciones, sino para pagar el personal que hay que contratar para industrializar la fruta. Y lo mejor de esto es que entonces todo sería fruta de primera, la que tiene la mancha y la que no tiene la mancha, porque como explicó, la pulpa internamente es de la primera calidad y es igual en una u otra fruta. Como está bien presentada en bolsas limpias y sanitariamente dispuestas, el que le gusta la va a consumir con muchos beneficios orgánicos, que es lo que tiene esta fruta para las personas que la ingieren y que la consumen. Eso es lo que quisiera agregar. Ojalá llegara la posibilidad de que en este país y en nuestras manos estuviera la industrialización de la pulpa de la pitaya.
So I would say that one of my goals within the next couple of years is to be able to do a little bit more outreach with this southeastern part of the U.S. And be able to move my merchandise out of my local area. I know that once I start doing that, the profits are definitely going to increase, and that's definitely going to be a challenge because I'm not familiar with this area, but it's all about meeting people and it's all about creating contacts. So.
Yes. Quería aprovechar, tú que me mencionaste de Puerto Rico que está buscando ser un beneficiado. NRCS tiene asistencia para gente que están implementando beneficiados, que van de 50 galones de agua a un solo galón de agua por libra procesada de café. Que es algo que estamos viendo que ya se ha estado haciendo y que todavía se ofrece en NRCS. Y para ustedes todos que mencionaron, sería desarrollo rural, tiene grants, de value added que deberían de ver. Obviamente no tienen que traer dinero a la mesa y ellos tienen ayuda, pero algo que pudieran considerar es hacerlo fácil.
All right, I want to thank you all for your candor and your kindness in being here. I learned a lot from the graphic food, a little bit more about coffee than administering. I appreciate your life experiences, sir. And please, let's thank you. My pleasure to pass it to Jessica.
That was great. Thank you, Rafael. One more big round of applause for our If you didn't have a chance to ask your question during this section, I encourage you to take some of these panelists aside and talk to them during our lunch later on today or during our break in a little while. So before we break, before I let you guys leave the room for a little while, I wanted to draw your attention towards your program books. So you see the program book? Inside the program book, you have some takeaways, some flyers. Take a look at this flyer about the field demonstration on soil health. You all are invited, each one of you is invited. This is taking place tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. You don't have to RSVP, but if you'd like to RSVP and go ahead and reserve your seat, there's some contact information at the bottom of the flyer. And then there's also a map included within that program book. So you would just meet at the location tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. or maybe a little bit before?
9 is perfect.
9 a.m. So you heard it from the boss. All right? So please join us for that tomorrow if you have the time and if you're interested. Another item that I'd like to remind you of is the evaluation. You also have an evaluation in your program book. This is a great time during our break to go ahead and check the boxes and fill out the evaluation. You can go ahead and turn it in at the front. Otherwise, you can fill it out later on and we'll come around and pick those up at the end of the day. So without further ado, I know you guys are itching to take a walk and stretch out your legs. We'll have a 15-minute break. We'll meet back over here at 11:15 a.m. If you want to use the restrooms, if you haven't seen them already, you will just exit either one of these doors, but they are right in front of the elevators. So men's and women's restrooms right in front of the elevators. And then we'll be back here at 11:15 a.m. Thank you guys.
Ok, dile a Patricia que se venga.
Ready? Good to go. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the first annual Hispanic Farmers and Agricultural Professionals Symposium. We are here at the North Carolina Farm Bureau. For those of you at home, welcome again. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started with our panel in just a second. All right. So this is the National Hispanic Leadership Panel. Joining us today are 4 Hispanics who are leading agencies responsible for making critical decisions that support thousands of farmers across our nation. Each of our panelists represents the significant presence of Latino brain power, talent, and leadership in agriculture across our country. So without further ado, the important part of this session is introducing these Latino leaders. So first, and immediately to my right over here, is Astrid Martinez, born and raised in Puerto Rico, has been a state conservationist for the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service for Wyoming since 2012. Welcome, Astrid. Second, Mr. Benny Gatto Jr., a native of the Lone Star State, is the District Director of USDA Farm Service Agency's FSA Division located in Texas. Welcome, Benny. Thank you. Carlos Suarez, a native of Puerto Rico, became NRCS California's 11th state conservationist in 2013. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And last but not least, rounding off our panel today is Juan Hernandez, also born in Puerto Rico, who's been Maine state conservationist for 9 years and is currently serving as the NRCS acting director for the Caribbean area. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Now, if you want to learn more about the accomplishments and the backgrounds of our panelists, I direct you to your program books where you can see the full bios and read them in there. I also want to remind you to introduce yourselves to all of our panelists after this session and ask your questions then. However, we will have some time parked out at the end of this panel once we chat a little bit for you guys to ask your own questions too. All right? All right, let's get started. We're going to start our panel off with Astrid. Astrid, welcome once again. Thank you very much for being here.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. So, starting off, as a USDA leader, as a woman, as a Latina, what challenges exist surrounding diversity, inclusion, and equality in agriculture? And what are some of the things that you've done to address these challenges?
Thanks, Jessica. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. Well, good morning. Thanks for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. So, no, thanks for the invitation again. A couple of things that I want to address. Yes, it's a very challenging to have diversity and inclusion of us Latino Hispanics in many, many areas. For example, when I became the state conservationist in Wyoming, I was the first Hispanic female, both, first female, I don't matter if it was Latina or white or whatever, and to be the state conservationist there. So a lot of people always ask me, did you run into many challenges with the people there? And my main challenge with them might have been my accent, that they just needed to get used to it. But through the years, that kind of, faded away for them because they got used to my talking. You have to go that way. For us to bring diversity to, we call it the Color State. Sorry. It's a challenge because people think about Wyoming just being an all white state. Sorry, but that's true. And people just think, well, otherwise it's terrible. But we have a diverse producers too. When I started there, one of the main things that I started to do was going to visit my field office to know where my minority producers were, because I want to hear their stories why they were in Wyoming, how they got there, how we can help them to achieve their goals. And from there, we started to sharing their stories. And most of the producers that we have in Wyoming, they're all immigrants. They all came either from Cuba, from Mexico, under struggles of them getting there, getting to buy land or lease land, or just work with producers that they're on. They feel comfortable to lease them some of the land. And with that just came all the challenges that they had in there. So I wanted to know that just to be more, more proactive to help them out on what they want to do. Same thing I did with my employees. I started looking for a diverse workforce, trying to recruit from Puerto Rico. I know there's one of the NRCS employees here on the audience who started with me in Wyoming a few years ago as a student training. But just to showcase those. Another thing to mention about inclusion. For me, it's very important just to include everybody on all the activities that we do in the state. I might not have a very diverse workforce, but when we have those minorities within the state, we're very sure that we include them in everything, meetings, presentations, outreach events, same thing with the producers. We always want to showcase the work that they have done within the state. For me, as a female Hispanic, just to work my way through to my career, just to get through, be included, I never said no for something. If they ask me, I always say yes. If not, I volunteer myself to do things because I've never been the person that just sit back and wait for somebody to ask. I like to make things happen for myself, so I was always being proactive for that. And I think that through the years helped me to be the person that I am. I used not to be able to sit in front of the microphone. I got really nervous, Rafa, wherever you are, I can see you right there. So it takes, challenging yourself and get you to be outside of that comfort zone. So that you can feel, not wait for somebody to include yourself, but for you to include yourself in those activities.
And those are good lessons for any industry. I would think.
Definitely.
Yeah. So any particular challenges or experiences that you could share with us?
Sure. A couple of experiences through my career. I did a few detail opportunities, especially one that I worked really hard to get was to be acting state conservationist for a state in Arizona. Going to Arizona opened my eyes of a more diverse workforce, more complex, because there was work with tribes we haven't done that much in the past. Different partners that we don't have in Wyoming. So the scope of the work was bigger. So me being a state soil scientist in the past, my background is agronomy and soils. To be on that management position, it stretched me to the point that say, this is something that I really want to do, learn additional experience from that, being publicly engaged and make manager decisions out there. Also, I have done so many training opportunities out there that I can think of. I will take a little bit. One of them is currently I'm pushing myself to be through the senior executive candidacy program. But when it comes to experiences, just be involved with the community, employee organizations. The NRCS have the National Hispanic Professional NRCS employees. Just get involved with your community, employee organizations, and other activities, because those are the experiences that you gain from those activities that makes you grow and challenge yourself and make you better and more complete modern person.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that insight.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Astrid. All right, so next, I am going to move to Benny next on the panel. As a longtime liaison providing oversight and guidance between several offices, so I know that you work with FSA county staff, state offices, and also with communities and farmers. What would you recommend to close the gaps that exist between consumers and producers and better inform the community about what's going on in agriculture?
Well, thank you all for the invitation to be here. We appreciate it. What a great opportunity. And I think one of the biggest things is having something like this. In my area, I'm fortunate enough, the producers there, I live in a high population of minorities in my area that I cover. I cover 14 counties. And with that being said, there was still some misconceptions, there was some misinformation that wasn't being had, that the producers weren't getting. And some producers got together, they started coming to our offices, they started requesting appointments, meetings with my county directors, with myself, with some of our state office people. And we started fostering a relationship, started informing them of the different programs that we had and what the qualifications were, the requirements to be eligible for these programs. A lot of them, dealt with the commodity side and the farm loan program side, and we were able to mesh something. And there's several organizations that we have down there that have populated, that have come to fruition. One of them is there's an organization called Hope, and the leader, she constantly will contact us, our state office, and for some kind of trainings, for information. One of the biggest things I think is for the producers to visit the local county offices, find out what's available, find out how do you qualify for these programs. Every program that we have, of course, you have a regulation, you have a law on eligibility, on how to qualify. There's several programs that, a NAP program, non-insured assistance program, for example, where a lot of minority producers
they don't have to pay for the program. It's basically their eligibility is waived, or their fee is waived because of SDA. So as producers come in and we visit with them and talk to them, they find out a lot about these programs. We also have different other agencies that we partner up with, our local extension offices. They have meetings, they always include us. We have a spot in the agenda, so we go out and we visit with them. So getting on a mailing list at the local offices with your extension offices, that kind of helps bridge that gap, because you find out when there's meetings available and attend those meetings, visit with the people, get to know the local staff. In the FSA, for example, we have a EGA, which is a electronic government newsletter that the local counties will send out to the producers. There's also, we can do text messages, and they're short, sweet, and quick. A lot of producers in my area, they really like to be, we'll have a NAP deadline, for so-and-so crops, Friday the 13th, for example. And they just get a quick email, yeah. And so it reminds them, and there's information.
Is that something that is just available in your region, or
No, anybody, any office.
Folks can access those things in other offices across the nation?
Correct. And again, some are strictly Spanish speaking. FSA has all their literature in both English and Spanish, so you come into the office. But that's probably the biggest thing I would recommend is get involved, visit the local offices and see what's available.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, moving on. Carlos, welcome once again. So I was reading your bio, and I hope everyone takes the opportunity to read the bios of our panelists today. Quite impressive. It seems that you began your career with NRCS as a student trainee in Puerto Rico, and have since had extensive experience serving in a number of technical and leadership positions all over the world, internationally. It's a lot of experience. I'm sorry to make you revisit that. that look. But it's very impressive. So based on your experience, what USDA agency opportunities exist for other young Hispanic professionals who may want to take that same trajectory? And are there helpful tools for them to access those kinds of opportunities?
Yeah. So, voy a practicar mi español porque hace tiempo que no hablo en español solamente con la nena mía, y yo le digo que ella es J-Lo porque hablamos en español desde con el acento pero no, but good morning everyone, and because I know there's a significant number of people that speak Spanish, so I'm just going to do that in Spanish. I know there's good translators there. So la pregunta es, basado en mi experiencia, y yo he tenido la suerte y la dicha, sinceramente, de trabajar con una agencia que yo estoy enamorado de ella. Estoy enamorado de NRCS desde que comencé el 18 de octubre de 1992. Así de importante es esa fecha para mí. Aunque, como Jessica menciona, yo empecé en Puerto Rico haciendo un internado que sinceramente yo ni sabía si esto era lo que yo quería hacer. Y como dice mi madre, que en paz descanse, Dios siempre te pone, el tiempo de Dios siempre es perfecto, y te pone cosas en el camino que uno no entiende en el momento, y después más adelante sabe por qué las hace. Yo tuve una experiencia de trabajar con agencias. He estado trabajando en 11 estados. Tengo la dicha de haber trabajado en 2 asignaciones diplomáticas, una en México con la Embajada Americana como subdirector interino de Agencia Internacional de Desarrollo, y la otra fue en Nicaragua como asesor de manejo de cuenca. Casualmente, esa experiencia que tuve a principios a finales de los 90 y principios del 2000, manejando un proyecto de rehabilitación de post-huracán Mitch, fue la experiencia que el secretario de Agricultura vio que necesitaba para el secretario Puerto para liderar los esfuerzos de recuperación en Puerto Rico para USDA. Yo estuve casi un año en Puerto Rico, una de las experiencias más complejas que he tenido en mi carrera, porque como puertorriqueño, ir a la isla de uno y ver cómo estaba destruida y dejar los sentimientos aparte, decir, no, hay que meter mano, como decimos, es fuerte. Pero pues hicimos el trabajo y con mucha gente como Juan a mi derecha, que también fue, y un sinnúmero de personas que han ido a Puerto Rico a trabajar ha sido excelente. Volviendo a la pregunta, primero que nada, tienes que, como empleado, cuando estás empezando en la agencia, hay muchísimas agencias que te proveen ayuda o oportunidades para trabajar, no solamente domésticamente, pero internacional. Pero lo que yo le recomiendo a cada persona, a cada cual que me pregunta, ¿cómo puedo ser como tú? Y yo le digo, no como yo, digo, tienes que ser como tú mismo, o como tú misma. Y sí, yo tengo unas herramientas, cualquiera de los panelistas aquí tiene unas herramientas excelentes que los pueden ayudar en cuanto a experiencia. Pero es trabajar fuerte. Y uno piensa, sí, eso te lo dice a todo el mundo, ¿no? Tienes que trabajar fuerte, tienes que ser un profesional. Tienes que sacrificarte, porque para llegar hasta donde uno ha llegado no es fácil, no es algo que se lo ponen a uno en bandeja de plata. Uno tiene que trabajar y gracias a Dios he tenido muchísimos mentores desde mi primer jefe en West Virginia hasta mi jefe en este momento que me ha apoyado en mi carrera. Pero es buscar esas oportunidades, hacerte sentir, que conozcan tu nombre de buena forma. Y cuando digo de buena forma, ustedes entienden a qué me refiero. Ustedes no quieren que digan, Juan, tú no quieres saber de Juan. Puedo decir eso, yo recluté a Juan, así que este es mi hermano. O que todos te conozcan de buena forma. Pero también por tu trabajo. Si hay oportunidades, Astrid lo dijo muy bien, ponte de voluntario por cualquier trabajo que haya allá afuera, aun cuando tú no pienses que estés capacitado. Yo trabajé en México en una posición que, sinceramente, lo menos que yo estaba haciendo era de agricultura. Estaba envuelto en un montón de cosas que, sinceramente, bueno, muchas de ellas que yo ni quiero recordar que las escuché. Pero es la experiencia que tuve como líder que me preparó para esa posición. Y yo le digo mucho a la gente, si yo pude hacerlo, ustedes lo pueden hacer. Yo estoy sincero, estoy siendo bien sincero en eso. Yo tengo el orgullo de ser un hijo de migrantes. Mis papás son cubanos, vinieron de Cuba en los 60. Yo soy, como dicen, primera generación puertorriqueño. Sin nada, bien humilde, y eso es lo que me ha mantenido, siempre mantener en la cabeza de uno de dónde uno viene, nunca te olvides de dónde viene. Porque el momento que piensas que te dejas llevar por el título, ahí es que perdiste todo. Y yo, gracias a Dios, sí, soy director de uno de los estados más grandes de la nación, y eso lo quiero, a veces yo digo, ¿cómo rayos yo llegué ahí? Pero estamos, y es porque tengo un gran staff que me ayuda, que me apoya. Como yo les digo, yo soy un servant leader. Yo siempre le digo a ellos, yo trabajo por ustedes. No, ustedes no trabajan para mí, yo trabajo para ustedes. Así que tener todas esas cualidades y buscarte un buen mentor, un coach, una persona que te ayude, que te guíe. Y siempre estar dispuesto a tomar esa oportunidad que viene, porque tú no sabes cuándo esa oportunidad que te den sea la oportunidad clave para llegar a otra posición o encaminarte a otra carrera totalmente diferente a la que estás, que te va a llevar hasta donde tienes que estar.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, and last but not least, Juan Carlos, how are you?
Good.
All right. So you said that you learned the ins and outs of working on a farm while growing up on a coffee plantation in Puerto Rico. How did that experience position you for success as a USDA and NRCS leader? And what are some of the lessons you've learned that others can apply to growing Hispanic leadership and representation in agriculture at the local level?
That's a long question.
Yeah.
So, al igual que Carlos, voy a contestar en español. Quiero aprovechar la oportunidad. De hecho, es la primera vez que me preguntan algo así en los 22 años que llevo en NRCS. Sí, tuve la oportunidad y el privilegio de criarme en una finca. ¿Qué te diría? Que lo más que me ha ayudado es entender cómo un agricultor piensa y cómo las personas y the expectations que la gente tiene hacia agricultores. La gente, por ejemplo, en el mismo café no se dan cuenta de quién está aquí en este salón, está dispuesto a ir a trabajar todos los días por entre 4 o 5 años y no recibir un centavo de sueldo. No un centavo. Y estás teniendo gastos de fertilizantes, de pesticidas, gasolina, tú comes todos los días y no recibes un solo centavo de ingreso. De igual manera, muchos de los agricultores es una de las pocas profesionales, de profesiones, de que en cada primavera tú pones todo lo que tienes en el banco y se lo pones prácticamente entre tu conocimiento y las manos de Dios. Y son bien pocas las personas que entienden lo que significa eso. Y tener ese conocimiento de vivirlo, de tenerlo, de la incertidumbre de que cuando vas a cosechar, me dio hasta pena pensarlo, cuando estás a punto de cosechar viene un huracán, viene mucha de la gente simplemente no entiende o comprende eso. Y eso es lo que yo entiendo que me ha ayudado muchísimo para mí, para poder conectarme de una manera emocional con los agricultores. Y de igual manera, estoy en el otro lado de la ecuación, que es cómo estos programas, y por eso pregunté lo que pregunté, porque me encantaba tener la perspectiva de en qué momento ustedes se sintieron perdidos en el proceso. Porque eso es lo que yo siempre estoy tratando de resolver, de mirar las cosas como un agricultor las ve, como el servicio que está recibiendo. Y por eso pregunté lo que pregunté. Es que es difícil entender la burocracia y el proceso, y firma esto otro. Es otra cosa que, gracias a Dios, estando como 22 años con NRCS, con el gobierno, también lo entiendo. Y puedo navegar la burocracia de los programas y demás. Yo entiendo que esa conexión, de entender la conexión emocional y tener la conexión de entender cuál es la burocracia, cómo trabajarla y no pelearla. ¿Cuál es el punto de pelear algo que no tienes control? No te tiene que gustar, lo que tienes es que entenderla, navegarla para tener el resultado que tú deseas, para ser successful, exitoso. Casi logré sin decirlo en inglés. Y sí, expectativa, es que se escucha feo. Anyways, dime la otra parte de la pregunta, al final, que no me acuerdo de qué fue la pregunta larga.
So, are there any tools or any lessons that others can apply, folks in this audience can apply to grow Hispanic leadership representation at the local level in agriculture?
Es bueno reconocer cuáles son estos agricultores o estas personas que tienen, es que ya cuando tú llevas varios años, de tú conocer a alguien bien rápido, de darle la mano y cómo tú hablas con la persona, ya tú sabes que este es alguien que a pesar, ellos ni siquiera a veces lo saben. Lo que es curioso, ya tú reconoces las cualidades de un líder. Y te das cuenta de la manera en que se conlleva la persona, de la manera en que te habla, de la manera y eso es el tipo de personas que tenemos que cosechar. Nosotros que entendemos el sistema, Eso es lo que tú tienes que llevarte, como quien dice, debajo del ala y empezar a llevarlos. Muchas veces es enseñarles el cómo hacer la pelea, porque muchas veces ellos no se dan cuenta de cómo está otra cosa, presentarles a gente de influencia. O sea, aprovechar esa oportunidad. Ahora, químicos. Yo conozco a alguien de North Carolina, yo procuro de que conozca a Tim Beer antes que se vaya del cuarto y que conozca al director de Product Development. Esas son la gente que nos van a ayudar. Nosotros no lo podemos hacer solo. Nadie lo hace solo. Saquen eso de la cabeza. Yo llego aquí por mi medio, yo quiero hacerlo solo. No. Todo el mundo necesita a alguien en algún momento dado. Y como decía un jefe que yo tenía hace tiempo, que ya se retiró de la agencia, it's all about relationships. Y eso es lo que estamos haciendo aquí, y eso es lo que vamos a obtener aquí. Y yo te diría, no robándole la intención de Nolo, pero si lo resumo en una oración, ¿para qué más estamos en el mismo cuarto? Si no es para conocernos y acordarse. O sea, yo creo que aquí lo voy a dejar porque yo creo que ya no te almuerzo. Pero gracias por la oportunidad y es, en verdad, espectacular. Esta es la primera vez que yo creo que estoy dando un foro en español en los 22 años así, de hablar de la agencia.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that perspective. So I was writing down a couple of notes as our panelists were speaking. And some of the lessons, some of the takeaways, maybe some of the nuggets of wisdom that they've imparted tend to be the same, right? Even though they have different stories. I think the main takeaways is first and foremost, stay engaged. Find those opportunities, whether that's participating in organizations, in the industry, or staying engaged with the communities that you serve. Take initiative. So in order to find those leadership opportunities and grow and be successful, take the initiative to ask questions. Don't just ask the questions, also keep your ears open and listen. Because like Juan Carlos said, if he hadn't asked the right questions and really listened to those responses, he wouldn't have been able to accurately serve the communities that he was working with. And it's important to maintain perspective. Remember where you came from, right? It's important to always sacrifice, to be open to rolling up your sleeves and doing the hard work, even after you've made it to that leadership position. And part of that, of course, is to stay humble, regardless of where you are in your career. So with that, we have a few minutes left, and I'd love to take a question or two from the audience. Remember, in order to ask a question, if you could just tap that little black button with the red around it until it turns green, ask your question, and then turn it off. Okay? All right, do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I was waiting for somebody else, but I had to set it in there. Y también voy a hacerlo en español porque es mi comfort zone, pero y la pregunta puede ser un poco controversial, pero yo creo que esa es la razón, parte de la razón por la que estamos acá. Y es específicamente, en su experiencia, ¿ustedes creen que la manera en que debemos tratar o servir o conectarnos con los productores tiene que ser igual si son latinos o si no son latinos? ¿Y cuál sería la diferencia?
Yo voy a tomar y sí, gracias por la pregunta y por tener coraje de hacer esa pregunta. No, y lo digo en serio, porque y voy a dar un ejemplo, no solamente de latinos, voy a hablar en California, lo que he hecho y lo que hice no solamente en California, pero para mis amigos de Florida. Yo también estuve de director en la Florida por 5 años antes de regresar a California. Y casualmente, una de las áreas donde nosotros estábamos, uno mira a la población en general. Maya estaba hablando sobre los diferentes poblaciones, niveles de población a nivel del sudeste, pero en Estados Unidos. Yo hice eso cuando llegué a California. A principios del 2015, California pasó a ser, los hispanos en California pasaron a ser el grupo étnico más grande en el estado. Sin embargo, y yo siendo hispano, y me tomo la responsabilidad, porque eso es algo que yo siempre he dicho, que uno como líder tiene que tomar la responsabilidad, no se lo puede echar a otro. Tiene que uno decir, esta es mi responsabilidad. Nosotros no estábamos haciendo un gran trabajo con latinos y con hispanos en el estado. Teníamos y Maya, cuando Maya lo mencionó, dije, sí, eso es cierto. Hablamos de productores hispanos y lo que pensamos es en farmer workers, trabajadores de finca o de grano. No pensamos de que hay una gran cantidad de agricultores hispanos que han salido de ser farmer workers, de trabajar en el campo, como dirían, como dicen en buen californiano, piscando o recogiendo frutos, para tener su propia finca, para tener su propia granja. La pregunta que usted hizo, ¿cómo yo me la acerco? A veces uno tiene que ir al mismo grupo a donde están ellos. Y que te vean que con la persona que está, y sin ninguna ofensa, que vean que la persona con la que están hablando viene del mismo background, que viene del mismo perfil. Lo mismo pasa cuando he trabajado con agricultores afroamericanos o cuando he ido a reclutar con agricultores a reclutar para estudiantes. Uno tiene que, los estudiantes quieren ver que a la agencia que tú vas a ir hay representación, y no solamente representación a nivel de management, pero a nivel de oficina de campo, pero a nivel de liderazgo. En cuanto a los agricultores hispanos, uno tiene que utilizar todas las herramientas que hayan ahí en el libro. Que si ir con grupos, con asociaciones de agricultores, que si ir a los campos y reclutar personal que te hable español, y esa es una de las cosas que hemos hecho en California. Yo me alegro muchísimo por lo que Noro está haciendo acá en el oeste, en el sureste, con este simposio. Nosotros en California vamos a nuestro quinto reunión, se llama Latino Farmers Conference, y la hacemos totalmente en español también. Porque, sinceramente, yo llegar aquí, por eso que estoy hablando en español también, porque tú llegar aquí a hablarle a agricultores que su primer idioma es en español, mira, utilizar, gracias a Dios, puedo hablarlo, pues te voy a hablar a ellos en nuestro idioma. Pero muchas veces también es trabajar uno en uno, y ver qué es lo que tú necesitas, cuál es la mejor forma de yo comunicarme contigo, que ellos me digan. Y a veces es que tú tienes que usar otras personas para que te ayuden a llegar a esos grupos. Un ejemplo que yo tuve, y no quiero tomar mucho tiempo, estoy seguro que mis compañeros aquí tienen otro comentario. En la Florida hay muchos agricultores coreanos. Y yo tengo una de mis mejores conservacionistas de distrito, afroamericana. Los agricultores coreanos la adoraban. ¿Saben por qué la adoraban? Porque esa mujer que va a llegar lejísimo, Kisha, se tomó el tiempo, y a eso es lo que hablo de sacrificio. Primero, de empezar a hablar, de aprender coreano básico por su cuenta. Segundo, buscar grupos coreanos que pudieran traducirles. Un minuto. Y empezar a ganarse la confianza. Cuando ella se fue de su oficina, yo recibí cartas diciéndome que yo estaba haciendo, que estaba sacando una de las mejores empleadas del gobierno en los Estados Unidos para moverla. Y digo, bueno, le estoy dando una promoción, no puedo. Pero eso es lo que conlleva, es buscar cuál es la mejor forma de llegar a cualquier grupo, sea coreano, sea latino, sea afroamericano, sea la comunidad LGBT o veterano. Puedes buscar cuál es la mejor forma de comunicar y hacerlo como servidor público.
El caso mío en Maine, en particular, yo soy ahora interino, pero el trabajo mío como tal, yo soy el director de Maine. Y no es diverso, yo sé que esto lo va a asombrar a todos, pero no es diverso, algunos estados más blancos de la nación. Pero that's okay. Pero sí tengo una gran cantidad de mujeres dueñas y operadoras de fincas. De hecho, el Maine tuvo el brinco más grande en toda la nación en mujeres siendo operadoras y dueñas de fincas. Un tercio de mis agricultores son mujeres, pero me quedaba claro porque que no estábamos haciendo algo mal, como Carlos dijo, que no estábamos haciendo algo bien, porque los números que yo tengo en mi participación eran bien bajitos. Por lo tanto, yo sabía que algo no estaba funcionando. Si tengo tanta población de mujeres afuera como potencial cliente y yo no los tengo en los libros míos, obviamente estoy haciendo algo mal. Y hice un acuerdo con un grupo que se dedican exclusivamente a hacer este tipo de eventos con mujeres, de cómo comunicarse, cómo hablar. Obviamente porque yo no tenía los recursos de cómo hacerlo, porque lo que había hecho hasta ahora no trabajaba. Y eso me quedó claro. Y no era que no estábamos tratando. Me di cuenta que lo que estábamos haciendo no era adecuado. Y de hecho fue una cosa que yo aprendí y que me sorprendió. El tipo de color que usen en un flyer. Aparentemente hace una gran diferencia de cómo las mujeres responden a ir a eventos o no. El tipo de foto que se usa en el diseño y cómo la comunicación, el tipo de presentación, yo me quedé sorprendido con cosas que cuando tú las ves, es como que, ¿y por qué yo no pensé eso antes? Es casi obvio, pero cuando tú tienes a alguien que se dedica a eso, ahí es lo que tienes que hacer, es reconocer el problema y buscar la solución. Y como les dije ahorita, nadie lo puede hacer solo.
Nothing else to add? So we're running out of time here, but once again, I do recommend pulling these Hispanic leaders aside as you're going down to lunch or before the end of the day and continuing to have a dialogue with them. I have one more question for you all. So if you have one thing that every person in this room can do today to promote leadership, Hispanic leadership in particular, in agriculture. One thing that they can do before the end of the day today, what would that be?
Procuren no irse del cuarto sin conocer a alguien que nunca han conocido, que sepan que los va a poder o que tenga el potencial de ayudarlos en su futuro. Entonces, tira un dardo, escoge a alguien, pero no te vayas de aquí sin conocer a alguien que no habías conocido antes, que puedes reconocer que te va a ayudar en tu futuro.
I would agree with that. Visit with people, get to know the directors, the leaders, the positions. They can always help you, and I think everybody here is willing. That's why we're here, to help the producers, to help the students, to help everybody get into a position, or they want to follow in some of these footsteps and want to follow to get in a career. Or just learn about the programs, visit with somebody, and make a connection, get some of their contact information, send an email every now and then. Is there anything going on? Can you help me with this? I would be fairly confident to say everybody would get a response back with an email.
Pregunten por oportunidades, qué oportunidades hay para mejorar como líder, como agricultor, qué más yo puedo hacer.
Yo eco todo lo que se ha dicho. Yo añadiría a todo lo que los compañeros han dicho aquí, añadiría otra cosa más y es la siguiente. Primero, mírense en el espejo. Mírense en el espejo y digan, esa persona que estoy mirando en el espejo tiene el buen potencial de ser un líder, más allá. Y háganlo. Entonces, no tengan miedo. Nosotros, como hispanos, creo que lo puedo decir, a veces nosotros como latinos, como hispanos, tendemos a ser muy, porque nos criaron de la podemos muchísimas razones. Debemos ser muy humildes, y eso está bien ser humildes. Pero humildad no significa que tú no desarrolles el potencial que tú tienes. Humildad no significa que dejes todo eso que tú tienes dentro de ti aislado porque piensas que se va a ver mal. No, al contrario. Es hacer todo eso y aún así ser humilde y reconocer que hay muchas otras personas que tienen igual de cualidades que tú, pero que tú sí las tienes, que tú las tienes y que las puedes desarrollar. Y hablar con alguien y mirarse en el espejo, pero también aquí cuando se te vayan, hablar con alguien. Y como dijo Benny, hay una de las cosas que a mí más me agrada y es que alguien me hable y me diga, mira, quiero saber más de ti y que me envíen un email. De verdad, no solamente que me digan eso, pero sino que me envíen un email o que me llamen y me pregunten. Porque como me dijo mi gran mentor, la persona por la cual yo le debo estar en la agencia, Hernandez, ¿cuál es la mejor forma de yo agradecerle a él? Como un día le dije, ¿cuál es la mejor forma? Yo te quiero agradecer todo lo que tú hiciste. Y me dijo, la mejor forma de agradecérmelo es pay it forward. Y a eso estamos.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think that all of our panelists, they've earned the right to drop those mics. So, thank you so much. Show of hands, who's hungry? Anyone hungry? No? Okay. So I'd like to invite you guys to the cafeteria. We're going to start our lunch program on the ground level. What does that mean? You have two ways to get there. So you can arrive to the ground level by elevator. You can exit either way. Again, the elevators are across the restrooms. You'll press G on the elevator. I learned that yesterday. I pressed the wrong button. So you'll press G on the elevator to get down there. If you decide to take the stairs, you'll exit out of these doors right here with the exit sign, and then you'll make an immediate left, and the stairwell will be right there. I warn you that there are quite a bit of steps on the way down. So, so if you don't want to walk a whole lot or get exercise before lunch, I recommend the elevator. We will meet you down there and begin the lunch program immediately. When you arrive, you will see some symposium committee organizers or volunteers down there. They'll direct you. They'll point you in the right direction. We will get our food through the buffet line. We'll go outside to grab our food, then go sit inside and begin eating immediately. You don't have to wait for the program to start. We have music and festivities down there. So enjoy the music, chat with one another, and we'll get started with our lunch program at 12:40 p.m. All right, thank you so much. See you there. That's great. I wish I had more time with you guys. I feel like it's quite so quickly. So much, Larry. I enjoyed the Mi Viejo San Juan that you did a little while earlier. It made me emotional. All right. Are we ready to go? All right. Once again, I'm Jessica Casia. I am your MC today. But I won't be talking a whole lot during this lunch program. I'll leave it up to the professionals in a little while. So first and foremost, this is the lunch program. For those of you tuning in online, on live stream, this is the lunch portion of the program. So if you haven't eaten lunch today yet, go ahead and grab a bite and eat along with us during the lunch portion. To get started, once again, let's thank Mr. Larry Bellorin. He is our harvest today, our entertainment for today. Thank you, sir. And I'm up here to welcome yet another Larry, Mr. Larry Wooten. He is our host today. So he's the man of the house today. We've kept him really busy all day today, and the work continues, sir. So Mr. Larry Bluton is the president of the North Carolina Farm Bureau, and I would like to welcome him up here to the podium. He will be introducing our keynote speaker today. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Jessica, and it's certainly my pleasure to be back with you again. It's been a great conference this morning. I've learned a lot, enjoyed it, and certainly I hope all of you have as well. But today at lunch, you're in for a real treat. We are honored. It's an honor for us to have with us today at our lunch as our keynote speaker. It's certainly an honor for me to introduce Dr. Rich Bonanno. Rich Bonanno, I've known for many years. Rich Bonanno is a native of Massachusetts. He got to North Carolina. He'd been to North Carolina. He went back to Massachusetts, and he got back to North Carolina just as fast as he could. And we're glad that he's here. Rich Bonanno is a farmer. He owns and operates a farm just south of Boston, Massachusetts. And he and his family grow vegetables and bedding plants. As I said, I've known Rich Bonanno many years. In addition to all of the work that he did with the University of Massachusetts, Rich Bonanno served as president of the Massachusetts Farm Bureau. We have a Farm Bureau in all 50 states of the United States. And Rich was my counterpart in Massachusetts and did a great job there. But in 2015, we needed an associate dean and a director of the Cooperative Extension Service in North Carolina, and we reached out because we wanted the best. We reached out to Rich Bonanno, and in 2015, as I said, Rich became the associate dean and director of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. I know this, ladies and gentlemen, from experience and knowing this man well. You will not find a better advocate for agriculture. You will not find a better advocate for our state's farmers. You will not find a more passionate person about agriculture, more professional, more qualified, and more knowledgeable about what the needs and the challenges are for agriculture in North Carolina. And not only here, but he's an authority across the United States. With that, it is my honor to present to you our speaker this afternoon, Dr. Rich Bonanno. Rich.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm a little out of my element here because I'm tied to this podium because of the live stream, and I don't get to walk around. And if I could do this in the seat of a tractor, I'd be much happier. But it is great to be here. I want to spend some time this afternoon talking to you a little bit about extension, what we do at NC State University on behalf of agriculture, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about farming and kind of relate to some of the things I heard this morning and what people are doing. I'm sorry because of the room and everything, we can't do slides, and I had some great farm pictures I wanted to show you, but we'll have to give that up for now. So a little bit about extension first. So as you know, as I work at NC State University in Raleigh, it's one of our land grant institutions. Which means that we are a public university, and one of our missions is agriculture. And extension specifically is really an educational partnership between many entities: the federal government, the state government, county government, North Carolina A&T State University, NC State University, that helps people put research-based knowledge to work for the prosperity of people in North Carolina. And there is a land-grant university, at least one in all 50 states, which is a great thing. The great thing about extension also in North Carolina is we've had some good funding. And from all of the entities, from the county government all the way up to the federal government, it allows us to have a fully staffed office in all 100 counties in North Carolina, plus the Cherokee Nation up in the mountains. And that gives us a real breadth of connectivity to the public, which not every state enjoys. So 101 county offices between our county-based people and our campus-based people. We have just under 1,000, 967 people that work for us in Extension. We support about 1,700 jobs in the state. We have a broad web presence, a broad face-to-face presence. Our web hits approach 3 million web hits a year on our sites. We have 1.8 million face-to-face contacts with people in North Carolina. And over the course of the year, we run over 13,000 educational programs that span everything from food and nutrition programs to youth development to agriculture. We are part of a land grant system that really has 3 pieces to it. It starts off with teaching undergraduates and graduate students. It also is a place to do research or to develop new knowledge, and that knowledge in our land grant universities, especially in the area of agriculture, natural resources, forestry, and so forth, is nothing unless we can get that information out to the people that can use it. And as I mentioned, we have 3 main parts of extension. We have agriculture, which is probably half of our enterprise, but we also have 4-H, which is youth development, citizenship, leadership, STEM education, and then we also have our food and nutrition programs where we work to educate people that might be on food stamps, SNAP, WIC, and other government programs, and really to the public at large, and trying to help them make better food choices to make their lives healthier and to make the lives of their family members healthier. And that's part of what we do. So again, I mentioned we've got a great web presence. We have, every county has a website. We have many, many university websites. No matter where you are in North Carolina, you can connect to one of our offices, see where it is, see who works there, see what they do, make connections, and partake of all the opportunities that we have. We've got some specialized programs to kind of help, especially newer farmers, smaller farmers, people coming in, getting into the business. A new one we have is actually called North Carolina Farm Link. And North Carolina Farm Link is a way to connect. Sometimes there's people that have land but don't have anybody utilizing it, and they're looking for somebody to come in and maybe start farming that land. And so we have the opportunity to sort of connect people in, but also we have people that are looking to farm. And as many of you know, regardless of your background or your means in many cases, it's difficult to get into agriculture. Land is a huge investment. And even if you're renting it, it's an investment. Equipment, what to do about labor, marketing, all of these pieces. And so the other half of this program is for helping people to find land, whether it's to purchase or whether it's to rent. And a lot of times we're working with smaller people that are just getting into the business and helping them with their first piece of property. Another program that we have, it's actually a collaboration between East Carolina University and North Carolina A&T State University and NC State, is called the Agri-Medicine Program. And the Agri-Medicine Program is a program that is geared towards all of agriculture. It focuses a lot on farm workers, and in many, many cases, Hispanic farm workers, to make sure that they can stay healthy on the farm, give them some education as it relates to just personal safety, pesticide safety, and to make sure that that when they enter a farming operation, that they have all the right precautions so they can not get hurt and again stay healthy. But also part of that program is for farmers, to make sure that we give farmers the tools to make the right decisions, that they have the right equipment. They're thinking about all the ways that they could possibly get hurt on the farm, and to make sure that they mitigate those things. So it covers equipment safety, pesticide safety, driving on the roads. We also are starting to work with farmer stress and farmer health, because so many farmers, it's difficult for many farmers to make ends meet. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the comments I heard earlier today about prices in the markets and so forth. And this is a very, very common thread in agriculture, unfortunately, that many of us have to deal with. We do a lot with produce, food safety, regulations, trying to get people to understand everything that's required of them by state government, by federal government. It seems that no matter where you are and what you're doing, every year there's something else that you have to worry about. There's some other rule that relates to labor. There's some other rule that relates to pesticide use. There's some other rule that relates to food safety. There's some other rule that relates to how you drive equipment up and down the road. And we need to understand that. We've got great organizations like Farm Bureau and others that work with us to try to make sure the regulations are the best they can be. But food safety is a real big one the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of farmers need training. We have a couple of great people that work on the fresh produce side. One of them is actually Hispanic that we got from Florida, and her name is Elena Torres, and great, she's bilingual. She mostly works in the western half of the state, but she's been a really great resource for people to be able to learn about food safety. One that I really want to highlight is a program called Juntos. And some of you may know Juntos. Who knows Juntos in the state? So Juntos means what? Together. And it's a program that really started at NC State. Cynthia Aguilar is here, and she's, Cynthia, raise your hand. And she's one of the people that helped found Juntos. So the goal with Juntos, we have a lot of youth that we work with. And we know that if we work with youth and help them with leadership and citizenship and STEM education, one of our goals is to try to encourage kids to move forward in life, to think about higher education, to think about what they can be, whether they end up going someplace else or bringing knowledge back to their home communities. It's really important to give kids the best opportunities we can give them. Particularly in the Hispanic arena, it's been a little difficult. And I can relate to this to my own family when I was, second generation from Italy. And I grew up and my parents didn't want me to do anything. I couldn't go to friends' houses. I couldn't get involved in anything. It was like, no, I realize you're graduating from 8th grade and there's a big party, but you can't go because it's family and you have to stay home and you have to pull weeds in the celery or something. And so we understand that a lot of kids just have issues with getting engaged. And what Juntos really does is it primarily focuses on 9, 10, 11, 12th grade students and tries to prepare them and shows them that the opportunities that are out there, especially when it comes to higher education. So there are county-based programs in many counties around the state. Diana Urieta is here. Diana, you in the room? There you are. Diana is our current administrator, extension specialist for Juntos that works across the many counties in North Carolina. There's a connection to NC State. The goal, of course, is we love to have as many of those students come to NC State as possible. But the reality is we're just looking for kids to have opportunities and to think about how they can get into college. And we've got some great success stories with Juntos. I'll give you a few metrics. 87% of the students feel confident they will continue their education after high school. 95% of the students in Juntos report that the Juntos program helped them feel like they belong at school. 100% of Juntos seniors graduate from high school. So really great metrics for Juntos. And Juntos, as an extension program, was so successful in trying to get kids to come into agriculture programs that the entire NC State University ended up embracing Juntos and felt that it was a great way to get kids, regardless of which college they wanted to go to at NC State, even if it was engineering or sciences or human studies, human arts, and so forth, that it would be a way for them to get into the university. So Juntos has been incredibly successful. And in fact, Diana doesn't even work for me anymore. She works for NC State University now as part of a higher level. And it just shows the testament how Juntos has really grown in North Carolina. But one of the really also great things about Juntos is that other states have watched this program. And again, this is really critical because if we want to increase the success rate of people, get more of, no matter what group we're working with, but in this case, Hispanic people being more involved in not only farming, but industries that expand farming, government and some of the people you saw this morning, private industry and so forth. We need to get more kids with the right education to be able to get into those programs. So Juntos has also been embraced. We have memorandums of understanding with several other states, and they include currently Iowa, Oregon, New York, Texas, Florida, Nebraska, Nevada, California, Illinois, Alabama, Wisconsin, and our two newest states are Indiana and Idaho, that have embraced Juntos, the NC State program, as being something that they feel in their own states has been incredibly valuable for them to move forward. The other thing, even with an extension, we look at the people that we hire. We try to have a very broad group of people that work for us. Our goal always is that the diversity that we have within our university, within extension, reflects the diversity that we have in the state. It was mentioned already this morning about how important it is for people to feel that there's a broad diversity in people that they're dealing with, so they understand not just that there's people that can relate to their own personal situations, but they see opportunity in their futures. So within our college, we are constantly looking at how these numbers work. We're a little bit below, I will admit, at NC State. About 5% of our students are Hispanic versus 9% or so in the population in North Carolina. But I will say that from a hiring standpoint for faculty, of about the 80-odd faculty that we've hired in the last 3 years, about 25% of them are Hispanic. Now, one of the things that's interesting is not everybody reports themselves as Hispanic. So we hired 21 new faculty, but only 9 of them said they were Hispanic. We hired them anyways, okay, because they were great, but not everybody reports it. So sometimes even our reporting numbers are down because people choose not to self-report. So just something that comes up that we deal with. From an education and access standpoint, I really believe that in order to increase Hispanic participation in agriculture and really the overall agricultural industry, we need to, one, and I mentioned this, increase the number of students in 4-H, high school, Juntos, and the university that are going to get advanced degrees. And also to ensure that the Hispanic community, just like every other community, needs to have equal access to all of our services, lending, extension, FSA, NRCS, all of the opportunities that people have to be able to connect their farms. And especially for new people coming into agriculture, you've got to have this connectivity. You just can't go down to any bank and walk in and say, hey, guess what, I want a farm. I need $100,000 to get going. It's difficult to make all that happen. And we need to make sure that all those opportunities are across the board. And also just understand that when we talk about agriculture, it's just like when we talk about the value of agriculture in North Carolina being above $90 billion. Understand that that's not just farm gate. That's not just what we produce on the farm. That is a very broad, encompassing number of everything that's involved in the agricultural enterprise, right down to food manufacturing, other related industries. They're all connected. And therefore, the opportunities for people when they get into agriculture is not just farming. It does include industry. It does include government, being involved with commodity groups and other support organizations that exist. And education, teachers at the high school level and beyond, the university, cooperative extension. And again, at the university level, we try to offer a broad range of opportunities. So we've got a 2-year program, the Ag Institute, and we've also got our 4-year program. Just something to keep in mind that there's a lot going on. Now I want to take my university hat off for a minute and just kind of put my farmer hat on and just talk about a couple of things here. So my family's been in farming since 1910. And every farmer's had a story. My great-grandfather was born in Italy. He was an orphan. He grew up in a monastery. When he finally was able to farm, he became a sharecropper. When he finally had the opportunity to leave, he did. Came to the United States, brought his family over a couple of years later. After being in this country 4 years, he was able to buy 100 acres of land. I don't even know how he pulled that off, but we've been farming ever since. So this is our 110th growing season. We have bedding plant greenhouse business, fresh market vegetable business. We have a fall hardy mum business, very family oriented. I'm 4th generation. My daughter, I have 3 girls. My youngest daughter is now running the farm. So one of my really criteria when I decided to leave, because when Larry said I left and I got back as soon as I could, the reality was it was 27 years I was gone. Farming, and had to make a whole nother daughter, get her all grown up and get her to college, because the oldest one is a special ed teacher, the middle one was in the Air Force, so I didn't have a farmer, so we made one more, and we got one. She is actually running the farm. She's 27 now. I left her when I was 24, but my father's going to be 90 in a couple of weeks, and he's still there. And we've had a lot of the great employees over the years, and Nolo mentioned, we've had a lot of people from Puerto Rico over the years that have worked for us, and they've all been from Jayuya. So if anybody knows Puerto Rico and Jayuya up in the mountains, and Luis Sanchez was the guy. So Luis Sanchez worked for us for 30 years, and he was the guy when I was growing up. So everything we needed that had to do with the fields, it was like Louis says, "Oh, that lettuce isn't ready," or "You better get out there. You think you're harvesting 50 eggplants today? You better make it 100 because they're going to be too big." But Louis was somebody that was always there with us. We had a great group of people from Puerto Rico that worked. Now we're mostly H2A, and our workers come from Jamaica. But Louis was such a part of our family and our business that when Louis passed away, I bought his gravestone. Just because the family needed help, and so that was my contribution to sort of Louis being on the farm. But just some things that I just want to relay to you real quickly is that every farmer struggles, especially when you're in a business that is perishable. Prices are not good no matter where you are. We were talking about getting paid. There is a federal law that, especially on the produce side, that when you sell something that's perishable, you have to be paid within 2 weeks. And that's something that everybody is aware of. And sometimes you make deals with certain supermarkets, like Whole Foods pays in 30 days, and some people pay in 60 days. But one of the chains we sell with pays us in 14 days. But what we found is that just being in the wholesale business is not always the best place to be, especially when you're dealing with a perishable commodity. So in addition to continuing to be selling to supermarkets and selling to institutional food buyers, we also sell to other farmers that sell our product in their farm stands and their CSAs and their farmers markets that they go to. But so we do CSA. We have a CSA. We sell to farmers markets at farmers markets. We have a farm stand at the farm. We try to be as diversified as we can. We try to be as value added as we can when we have the opportunity to. We're not just in the vegetable business anymore. We used to be in the hog business at one time as well and also raise fruits. But now we've got a greenhouse business. As I mentioned, we grow fall hardy mums. I hate to say it, but flowers, we make more profit growing flowers than we do growing vegetables. And that's just how it is. People buy food every day. They don't want to pay a lot for it. They don't buy flowers every day. They're willing to pay a little bit more for it. And that's how we make our money. And we do value added. We do romaine hearts. We do things where we can get closer to the customer from a retail standpoint. We grow ethnic vegetables, things like chipolene, mashishi, other crops that hit certain ethnic markets where we have that target. In North Carolina, there's a great opportunity because we have a lot of people moving to the state. They're mostly moving to urban areas, and it's also a very diverse population. They have a lot of needs, but they also like to buy local in a lot of cases, especially when it comes to the fruits and vegetables. And if you can get into those markets, you can have more opportunity. There's more of that final retail dollar that you can get when you do that. So just something to think about, that this is, there are opportunities for people. There are marketing opportunities. There are production opportunities. It's great. People, the public, have so many different needs and wants and beliefs about food and how it's grown and where it comes from. There's opportunity for just about anybody to get into the business. And you've got to figure out a production model that's profitable for you. You can't be in a production system where you lose money every year. Farming should not be like owning a boat. Okay, you should make money when you're doing it, and that's really the goal, and that's why we've been so diversified over the years and into so many different crops. We even do shamrocks for St. Patrick's Day. Whatever works. Our retail greenhouse business is expanded. My daughter's going to start selling Christmas trees this year because she sees the opportunity from our retail business to be able to do it. So sort of in sort of conclusion on the farmer side, I will say this, that for people getting into the business or the people that are already in the business, the more diversified you are, the better off you're going to be. The more you can have a value-added product, the better off you're going to be, and the closer you can get to the final consumer and those final dollars, the better off you're going to be. And sort of an overall conclusion, I would say this, and we're talking about Hispanics and Hispanic farmers who are focusing on that, but I will submit to you that everybody, all farmers, most farmers have the same issues. And so first, there's room for all farmers, I believe, under this tent that we have of agriculture, because there's so much opportunity out there. It's just a question of figuring out how to grab it. The local food movement is a great way to help smaller and local farmers. Farmers have to be innovative and find innovative ways to stay in business. A lot of that is diversity. Farmers need access to technology. It shouldn't just be, the technology for people that aren't in agriculture. Technology is something we need across the board, whether it's equipment, whether it's our ability to track data or to track inventory on our farms or to grow our crops. Technology is incredibly important. The need for our universities is incredibly important. Farmers need support from the public. It's very, very important for farmers to connect with the public to understand their food supply, to understand where their food comes from, to be able to have a trust factor with farmers, and that's a great thing also about local food, but just agriculture in general, that support from the public is very important, and sometimes I feel like we don't always have that. Farmers need each other, okay? Very important to have farmers needing each other. I was just tell you a really quick story, then I got just like a final comment. I was at a field day one time in Massachusetts. We had gotten a new commissioner of agriculture, and he was a guy that really, he wasn't a farmer, but he ended up as commissioner of agriculture. So we're at a small fruit field day, and we're at somebody's farm, and they're talking about their strawberries, and they put up these big PVC pipes, all holes in the side, and they're growing strawberries up these towers, and everybody's milling around and saying, what variety are you using, and what's your biggest pest issue, and how are you fertilizing, and how much water does it take, and when are you harvesting, and how are you marketing, and how much are you selling the strawberries for? And this farmer's just answering all the questions, just like you asked him, like, is today Tuesday? And after about 15 to 20 minutes, the commissioner had just been appointed. It was like his first month. So I'm in the back of the crowd, and he comes out and he grabs me and he pulls me away like 100 feet behind everybody else. And he says, I don't get it. I don't get this. I said, what don't you get? He said, you people share everything. He said, who does that? What kind of business does that, where you just share all this information? And they're not buying it from this guy. I said, listen to me. I said, there aren't enough of us. And we need each other. And if this guy goes out of business and that guy goes out of business, maybe that tractor dealer's not there anymore. Or maybe that fertilizer distributor's not there anymore. The guy that supplies the boxes or the clamshells that put the raspberries in. And so people need each other. And that's why we share, and that's why we're like a family. And it doesn't matter where you came from or your background. We all need to work together and be together. And farmers need the next generation. Somebody mentioned this morning about the kids and whether they're going to stay in agriculture, whether they're going to go do something else. We need to make sure that we create the right opportunities for people that want to stay in business. It was said this morning, yeah, food's pretty important. It's pretty good. We all eat. It's right there behind air and water. Okay, right there behind air and water. And so working together and being a family and trying to figure it all out is something we need to do. And the only way we can do that is for all of us to be part of that solution. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here. Parting point, I believe not in pointing out our differences, but rather in celebrating our similarities. So thank you so much for listening.
Thanks once again to Mr. Bonanno for sharing those words of inspiration today during our lunch program. One more round of applause for him before we leave. Send him off the right way. Once again, thank you to the North Carolina Farm Bureau for sharing these state-of-the-art facilities with us today. and also for sponsoring that delicious lunch. So thanks to them. And we would be remiss if we didn't point out that there's one individual in this room who's really helped us a whole lot throughout this process. She's made sure that this event was carried off without a hitch from the North Carolina Farm Bureau side. Tiffany Riley, are you in this room by chance? Hi, Tiffany. If you could come on up to the front so that we can thank you properly.
So there is somebody mentioned about poems this morning. So I'll tell you about my favorite. It's Jorge Guillén. He's a Spanish poet from generation of the 27. Anyway, he says something that I always remember when I remember the most important thing about what many people had said about this concept of agriculture is amigos y nada más. El resto, la selva. Friends and nothing else. The rest is a jungle. And everything that we do every day, if you don't make a friend, you have to start again. So I have made a friend here with Tiffany. She's been great. And we're giving you something really little for you and your daughter. Thank you. I just want to end by saying that in the same thing about the friends, I have to say that Larry's been a wonderful friend to us, and we have worked on a number of different things, and you hosting us and being so gracious and so kind. Thank you, Larry, and for your leadership and your friendship. I also want to tell you that as a Puerto Rican, my dad served as Secretary of Agriculture for the island, and the reason why I came to North Carolina was because of a friend of his that was a commissioner of agriculture. Many of you would know Jim Graham. I was on my way to Wisconsin, and I ended up in North Carolina. Right. And then Governor Hunt and people like that have been so good. But I also want to talk about some of the friends from North Carolina, and I want to talk about a friend from Argentina that I met here, Marina. Marina has been great in the organizing of the conference. She is a publisher for Que Pasa. Que Pasa is actually sponsoring with us part of the conference. And you have seen some of these posters that are posters developed by students that have worked as interns in the summer with NRCS. And they are significance of some of the things that they have done in practices in Mississippi, North Carolina, Culebra, Puerto Rico, and we will select the winner. Que Pasa is going to help us with recognizing that winner. And again, we have built friends through that process as well. So this is not anything but a family, a big family that Dr. Bonanno has said. And since he is here, and I'm going to recognize someone that has been really good to us and a good friend to our program is Mr. Barry Hamilton. Thank you so much that you're here. He was the first person that I knew when we started working on this effort of doing outreach. So it is just about friends. So again, thank you, Larry, for hosting us. And this is a great facility, and we will do it again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nolo. We do have other folks in this room that we want to take the time right now to thank. Long list of sponsors, folks that helped us organize this event. This event wouldn't have been possible without them. Their list they're listed on the back of your program. But please help me in thanking Nolo Consulting, first and foremost, for organizing the event. USDA, thank you, USDA, for your participation. Of course, once again, the Farm Bureau of North Carolina. We wouldn't have a place to sit today without you guys. Thank you so much. North Carolina Cooperative Extension. Fresh Central. Thank you. BAS, or Business Acceleration System. And of course, all of the individuals involved in the tireless efforts to organize and present the first Hispanic Farmers and Agricultural Professionals Conference here in North Carolina. May there be many, many more. Thank you. All right, and as Nolo mentioned, these contest winners, they'll be recognized later on. Que Pasa will provide them with a cash prize. These posters were displayed upstairs earlier, but take a moment to look at them, to enjoy them. They will be back upstairs later on. And then also, if you want to take a look at all of the entries, you can either go to the Que Pasa Media Facebook page. Is that right, Marina? The sort of, yeah. Maybe later. And then also, if you want to go over to LatinoFarmersUSA.com, that's where we're live streaming today as well. They're displayed there as well. So, Nolo, did you want to say a couple of words about the internship program, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that we will have an opportunity to listen this afternoon is careers in agriculture and the efforts to get youth and good talent into agriculture beyond what is the general, call it knowledge or stereotype idea. I think that one of the things that I can say about the internship is giving an opportunity to close gaps that are cultural, in this case, language, and that's what we have focused. Try to give students that are bilingual an opportunity to understand how the USDA and all the agencies, including those that are also more local, have opportunities for them that could open their eyes to a job that they never thought about. And one of the things that I think we discover ourselves is that we actually learn more about the students than we ended up learning about the agencies. The students' energy, intention, and desire has in many ways built opportunities that they built themselves. It wasn't really the way we thought it was going to be. The success of the program is the actual students. If you guys listen to, for example, the panel and listen to one of the students, which was a farmer, he was one of our interns, and the knowledge that he has and the talent was displayed throughout his effort. So the program has been incredibly successful in the little island of Culebra, with the opportunity that was opened up with NRCS and the connection with Juan Carlos. We ended up completing a book of 20 different conservation practices that the students actually wrote themselves. And that's going to be used to teach younger kids and community leaders, and it's bilingual. So that's the kind of experience that we're trying to proactively promote. And we have had 29 students. We hope to recruit thousands and thousands more in years to come. So that's what that is.
Thank you once again, Nolo. Thank you, Nolo Consulting, for that ambitious goal. You heard it, thousands and thousands more. So let's help that happen. Thank you very much, sir. And thanks to the folks at Nolo Consulting for everything that you do, not only in the area of agriculture, but in other areas as well, to help to promote the Hispanic community and to move the community forward. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm excited to arrive at this portion of the program. We're going to head back upstairs for some of the last sessions of the day. But now it's time to say goodbye. So we're done with the program down here. For those of you tuning in online via the live stream, virtually thank Mr. Rafael Osuba, who has been facilitating that live stream today. Thank you, sir. And you may want to write a note down, those of you joining us in this room and online, PowerPoint presentations from everything that was going on throughout the day, those will be available online, as well as recordings from the sessions throughout the morning, the luncheon, as well as the sessions in the afternoon. So tune in again next couple of days, and we'll have those available for you. So thanks so much for tuning in online. All right, for those of you here in the room with us, if you have your programs with you, you can take a quick look at your programs and plan out that game plan for the rest of the day. If you don't have the programs with you, just a quick reminder, the producers and farmers track workshops, those will take place in the main auditorium. That's where we got started this morning. Simultaneous translation will be taking place in that room as well, similar to the morning. So if you have your equipment with you, don't forget it, bring it with you. And then our student track workshops, those folks who are interested in those workshops, you're gonna join me in a conference room that is located right behind the North Carolina Rural Center booth in our exhibit hall. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. Our final sessions, again, will take place from 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. At that time, we're gonna come around and collect those evaluations, and then you'll also have some time to visit the exhibit hall once again on your way out. So thank you so much, and we will see you guys upstairs. We'll have folks in the hallways helping to get you there. All right, thanks, bye-bye.